Welcome back to Total Disclosure. My name's Ty. I'm the host and creator of the program, and I want to say thank you to everyone. Last night had a little bit of a personal issue arise. It wasn't personal, but I'm not going to get into why. Just know that I definitely couldn't be here, and it I don't like to move things like that. It gives me very, very high anxiety. So I do apologize to anyone that was going to drop in last night for this new, bi-weekly call-in show that, we're starting. So I really, really liked it the first time around. There's something about the roundtable discussion. There's something about getting people's input, no matter who they are, right? Open invite, whether you're on the other side of the UFO community, the topic, you're a skeptic, you're a debunker, you're left, you're right, center, blue, green, yellow. I don't give a fuck. I just want to hear what you have to say. Tell me you're a vampire, and I'll ask to hear more. So trying to capture some of that old, coast to coast feel in this new age of streaming. Aside from my interviews, which are very pointed interviews, I wanted a way, and we've tried a couple different styles of having a co-host for a live show. That didn't really work out. So I decided, you know what? Let's just go in with the call-ins. I really like the style. So tonight I have multiple topics that I definitely want us to get to. I want to talk about the Nazca Mummies and this little, not little, but this new video that came out that's showing some obvious signs of things that I am not smart enough to understand. So we'll jump into that. Is it a hoax? Is it the most elaborate hoax that the community has ever seen? It might be. It might be. That plus bombshell David Grusch interview on Megyn Kelly, of all places, where he said some things that I think we should definitely talk about, as well as I did an interview with Rep Burleson about a week or two ago, and he had told me about his meeting with Chris Bledsoe and how he asked Chris Bledsoe if he could summon an orb, and they did it, but Eric didn't see anything, and he said that on the show, and then all of a sudden it just blew up out of nowhere. And then Chris is revealing images of orbs with numbers in them, and he later clarified it on Jesse Michaels' American Alchemy, that Eric Burleson had left and then the orb was seen. So it's kind of dicey, but I'm going to be bringing Bledsoe back in, hopefully to Boston. But I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the lady, the star, the signal, the prophecy, all of that. And my buddy, Gene, what's up? First call in. First guy.
Yeah, well, I'm becoming quite the guest. I like to. I found being a guest is so much more enjoyable than actually trying to run anything.
Well, yeah, definitely so. Running it is can be a headache. It could be a headache, but and I actually, during that Burleson interview, I another thing, maybe you and I can start with this topic, this talk. Someone I thought, who I've been super, super supportive of, which is Eric Hecker. He was in the comments during the Rep Burleson episode, kept asking me to ask questions, and I couldn't dedicate the whole interview to like trying to prove his case. And you had given me a question, I asked it, it wasn't the answer you wanted or nor were looking for, but you didn't harass me about it. If Eric's out there somewhere, just know that that kind of, it actually did kind of hurt my feelings that he took it and ran with it like that. And then, called me or said that I was too afraid to look at the evidence or something like that. And I was just like, how did this get so spiraled out of control? But yeah, that kind of hurt my feelings a little bit.
Yeah, well, I've been chatting with Eric on his morning coffee talk space, and super bright guy. I have a ton of respect for him, and he's passionate, about what he's doing. And I think Burleson's comment, you know,
Rubbed him the wrong way.
well, yeah, I mean, as it should, because he definitely did bring the receipts, um, from when he went and they had the meeting, and so yeah, I think that, and I'm not trying to speak for him, but I can see where he wanted to have it out then and there, and he's like, "Oh, I've shown, I've given you the receipts."
Yeah.
And I didn't see the whole feed, and I don't know what might have, been directed to you or directed to him or to Burleson or whatnot. Um, but yeah, and listen, and I'm there myself, right? Yes, the question, and again, I structured the question in a specific way because I wanted to see if the whole thing would be answered and addressed, and he took the safe political route with it. So it wasn't beyond my expectations. It was, again, just trying to gauge something in the response as well. But listen, I think you've had Eric on in the past, right? And
Yeah.
to run that down again, and maybe take that video of Burleson saying, oh, if he wants to bring bring the receipts. Because in the same way, I find it funny that when I look at some of the people who have testified, and I'm like, well, what receipts did they bring?
Right. Right. And listen, Eric is, and he probably will hear it, but um, I wanted to fly him in here. I wanted to get his whole thing. I don't want to make this about him right now because he's not a topic that I wanted to get to tonight. But it kind of just clicked. You just reminded me of it. We have some other people that are going to be jumping up in a minute, but I wanted to start. So if Eric is out there, listen, it wasn't personal. I had a 2-hour window, and I went 8 minutes over that window already. At the end of the episode. So
I think we bring him to Boston. It'll be a good time.
yeah, and you know what I
Let's
mean?
do it.
Let's go. You and I have plans for other people who have been doing some groundbreaking work. Dr. Villarroel, James Fox, who just announced a National Press Club event that he's running on the 20th. Unfortunately, I won't be able to get there, but it is what it is. A lot of stuff happening though. A lot of stuff happen. Have you seen this whole Nazca mummy thing? I'm gonna bring everyone up now.
Yeah, I've seen the video that came out that was refuting, I guess, some of the X-ray evidence and talking about the placement of bones and whatnot. I'll be honest with you though, all of it is just always been secondary to me. I never quite bought it off the from the get-go, and I just kind of took the position of, if it's real, interesting. If not, then I guess it goes away. And so, my thing was, I'll get excited about it when there's a definitive answer. And that's how I am with a lot of things. So
Yeah, and I just thought it was interesting that so many people have looked at these things via X-ray. So many like real people, like real like legitimate resume, medical profile. I was watching some videos of like doctors looking at it and going, on the X-ray, they're looking at the hands and feet and saying, "Oh, I don't see anything out of the ordinary." But then there's this video from, I want to make sure I get everything right, from Incredible History, and the minute 258, they start talking about the hand, and then there's this. Apparently, there's like we have 5 digits, right? So the mummy's tridactyl, but there's a like a socket for another finger, like a thumb, or I think it was a thumb, and it wouldn't be there if there was no finger there. It just wouldn't. You have to be assigned person who understands this kind of stuff to know why. But I guess that wouldn't be there if it was like an evolutionary trait. It seems like they removed the thumb and then extended the middle finger with that metacarpal bone. So, and I'm just wondering how people like Jesse Michaels of American Alchemy, the Yes Theory guys, how did everyone miss this if it was so on the money and on the nose?
Well, I mean, I don't know his background, but I'm gonna guess he, didn't study how to read X-rays. Let's face it. And there's a lot of medical professionals that don't know how to read X-rays,
Yeah.
right? That's why when you go in, when you go in, they have somebody, that reads the X-ray and then writes the report to the doctor and is telling the doctor, specifically where to look.
Yeah, but the thing is they did have doctors all around them. So my big gripe with this, and the reason I'm starting with this story is because I kind of already wrote it off, to be honest. B, I think we do need to, as a community, and I think, we all talked about this coming into the new year, is put up or shut up, right? If we want, like, be the change we want to see in the community as a whole. So here I am talking about something that I think is now pretty much debunked, unless someone calls in otherwise and shows me proof otherwise. I think this incredible history episode pretty much they showed me some proof, some evidence that I can't refute. I can't refute it because
I'm not going to be the guy that calls in and refutes it. So that's what we would do. I'm going to side with the I guess with the block here, because I mean it didn't have a good start, right, with the gentleman that brought it forward. That's never a good start. And then you start getting to the mummies.
Right. And that was another huge contention point, was that the grave robber kept bringing them back to this one cave that didn't really make sense, that there would have been this many bodies in, that they would have been as preserved as they were. So, and the grave robber, these guys, they do this and then they sell these things on the black market as like, to people that are really creepy and just want, mummies in their house.
Yeah.
So
no, go ahead, guys. So I mean, the little bit that I've seen about it, because I've been looking in different areas for medical, more medical professionals, but it's like anything, they don't want to touch this. And that seems to be what people feel like, is you have bones,
that's a good
point. leg bones and the hand bones, sort of. It does look like a grave robin, throw some plaster of Paris. That's kind of what I've been getting. So yeah, I mean, unless someone could come in with a little better angle, I'm done. I never really started on it, like I think with Gene, but there's just not anything there. I think for 2026 we got to do better.
Absolutely. But I highly recommend that people do at least go up and watch this video from Incredible History. Although this guy raises a really good point that, we have a tailbone with no tail. So why not a nub for a finger?
We have a tail when we're in the womb.
Do we? And then it falls off. It just asphyxiates.
No,
whatever.
It generally just gets absorbed and disappears. But there are cases, I forget the medical term for it, but there are cases that babies are born with the tail, and then it just has to get snipped off.
Shallow House, the movie you watch on that.
Yeah.
Bro.
I tell my children, my oldest son and my daughter, they're 14 months apart. So I told them that my son had a tail when he was born, and he used to, swing around the house like a monkey and the House of Horrors and all of that good stuff.
But just real fast, and I know the show's not bad, but my 20-second spill on Burleson. Make sure you fly him in the day before, and you can quote me, because he's had terrible luck. The guy always gets stuck on tarmacs. And then he was supposed to come in here, watch videos, come to our location, see our drones, see the radar. And he was going to fly in on a private plane to Kansas, and he gets there and it doesn't work. And he himself said it was very suspicious, but all of a sudden the plane, then they try to switch the spark plugs in it, still couldn't get it up off the air, just magically wouldn't fly. So get him there the day early.
Classic. Absolutely. That's hilarious. That because I've had so you're not the only person that said that to me. That's kind of ironic. I do want to reiterate this. I did link and I pinned. If you do want to call in, I forgot to kind of say this at the beginning, even though I said it was a call-in show. Trying this new thing. Like I said, try to capture that old style of the Art Bell, of the old Coast to Coast, the good radio shows, where anyone could kind of call in and give their thoughts and opinions. So pinned at the top of the chat on YouTube, and then half the show on X, there's a link. You just have to have a phone and a built-in microphone. You don't have to show yourself like Whistling Mike is as just an avatar. You can show yourself if you want. Please feel free to jump in. Tell me about your sighting. Tell me about your encounter. Just say hi. Tell me your thoughts on Chris Bledsoe, which we'll get into in a minute because that's the brunt of the discussion I want to have today. Moving on from the mummies, I just wanted to start there as kind of like a banter. I guess what the final thing I'll ask is, so it kind of seems like you both said the same thing. Until you hear something that's more intriguing or gives you a moment of pause, you're looking away from the Nazca Mummies and going ahead.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, it's always the hype that makes me question everything.
Well, the reason I raise this point is because if guys like Jesse Michaels, and listen, I'm not trying to pick on Jesse here. Other people went down and saw them too. Burleson went down and saw them, although he called them bullshit to me immediately.
Yeah, I heard it
too. he called that bullshit immediately, apparently, like to me especially. And are we, as people in the community that put up videos and make content, is it our job? Now, this is a real debate right now. Is it the job of the content creator to also be the journalist? And if there's something that seems off, to report on that or not in the video that you are making about the topic? Because there's becoming this line where people are calling themselves investigative journalists, documentary filmmakers, investigative documentary filmmakers, and then they are not actually doing the research, it seems.
Right. Well, and that's the question for everybody to ask themselves. You as a journalist, or, are you a journalist or are you a content creator? And are you an investigative journalist or are you a disclosure themed content creator?
Right. And I don't think it's I really don't. And I say this with all due respect. I think if you are in it for the entertainment, just come out and say it. Just come out and say it. Like, I don't think that's a problem. If you want to tell stories about the secret space program, you should have the right to do that as a content creator. But, don't get mad when people don't take it as serious, right? Like, and that is going to be a central theme tonight. And so keep that in mind. Is it the duty of the person with making the content to tell the whole story? Because if the mainstream media is withering away, like we see it happening right now, people like Candace Owens, right, are becoming the more go-to, the Megyn Kellys, the Candace Owens, the Tucker Carlsons. That's like where people are getting their news. Rogan. They're not going to Fox and Brett Baer anymore.
I think part of the problem, here is, again, everybody, for as much as everybody wants to think that they're some kind of citizen scientist in everything that they do, they also, want affirmation if they've had some kind of experience themselves, or they're trying to put it, in context. So they will, in its human nature, they will just naturally latch on to anything that validates what it is they already think and believe, and then they will defend it to the death, regardless of, whatever information comes out, right? So anyone who wants, the mummies represent what it is they already believe about the issue, then they are going to say, well, obviously this piece that just came out is just a hit piece to try and divert the public, because it got so much attention. Now this is the counterintelligence operation to discredit it and discredit all these people doing this great work. And so, science goes out the window. And and I'm sorry, when Jesse Michael shows up down there, and Stephen Greer and Rep Burleson, and they're doing their tours of the mum, that is just spectacle, right? They don't know fundamentally, right? They are not scientists themselves. Nothing that they couldn't do, especially now, right? Really no reason to fly down there. You can have the same conversation with the same people, but you want the spectacle of being there and putting on the white lab
On
coat and
the
the
lab coat,
hairpiece,
yeah.
right? And looking like you've, gotten your hands dirty, in whatever.
Wash your hands, because it appears they dug that up out of someone else's grave. That would be my advice.
Yeah, that'd be the other thing. So, that's what I'm saying. It's like all that would be good, but then, you're having to sit down and you start asking the hard questions and the guy stands up and walks out of the interview. Now that's, maybe that's something you get face to face that you don't get, online or whatever.
I mean, you and I talked about this last night, which is where we said Twitter, and Elon's been tweeting it. It's now the number one in the US, the number one in this country, the number one place where they get their news from. So Ty brings up a very good, valid conversation. But, no matter how we twist and turn it, I think the reality is content creators will gladly call themselves investigative journalists because that helps out the channel. So, and Gene kind of led into this, but now it's back on us to investigate it ourselves. Yeah. So we're kind of back at the start, but I mean, people do have to do, like Gene's saying,
build believe that Maria and Montserrat.
Oh, sorry. Did you guys hear that?
Whatever your belief is cannot be your investigation. Your investigation has to be what is the truth.
Yeah, it has to be led by by the evidence. And Ty, I mean, to your point, not to rehash it, but that might be part of what happened with Eric during the Burleson interview, right? In that role, you were really just trying to share, just your intention was more content, where you were conducting an interview with a key figure, across a broad spectrum of current issues, where, where Eric's stuff sort of demands the more investigative component of it. Right. And so then that became a, sort of in real time, conflict of purpose for the particular show that you're doing. And so, something like this can certainly be content, but, your one-on-one interviews can be more investigative. So I think there is a way that journalists and creators like yourself can do that, but being transparent what each forum that you're hosting represents.
Bingo. So that is how I intend to balance. And I'm also going to be mixing in some video essays, which I do fairly, I'm going to start doing them a lot more. And then having those three types of the three types, like you said, is, the one-on-one deep dive, more investigatory, like let's dive into you or the story that you tell or whatever it is, that. And then having these open discussions where we're either talking about the topics of the week or the month or whatever it is. And then the video essays where I can kind of dive in. The first one I'm doing is actually on Bob Lazar. And the title is the original UFO whistleblower, like, so stuff like that. So getting into that, David Grusch just went on Megyn Kelly, and I can't tell, was it another like 13-minute thing? Because the only thing I could find is this 13-minute clip of Grusch on Megyn Kelly, or did he do the whole show? Do you guys know?
I don't know. I don't watch it.
I could only find the clip, so I'm pretty sure it was
Yeah,
just.
I think I've only seen what you've seen. So if there may be more, but that's all that I was able to
Yeah,
watch.
but I find it interesting to hear what he had said, because I have two things that I gleaned right off the top of this Megyn Kelly David Grusch interview. First of all, did you guys notice that when Megyn showed her clips of Age of Disclosure, they were very, very clearly recorded off the TV? She does not do that kind of shit unless there's no other way to get the clips. So I found that to be interesting, and I think that everyone should note why is because I've seen a lot of the stuff that or accounts saying that Age of Disclosure, and Dan have been tagging like the content, which is fair. Like, hey, it's your IP. You get tag it all you want. But I'd be interested to know if those clips got copyright flagged, because I just found it very odd that they were like filmed, and it's Megyn Kelly. She doesn't do that. She pulls from the source, but she couldn't pull from the source on this one. So like that was off to me. But then Grusch made this comment where he said, I've only seen clips of Age of Disclosure. I haven't seen the full thing. And then he went on to say about how he was disappointed he was the only intelligence official who was telling his truth. What do you guys make of those kind of comments? Considering there are people like Elizondo, like Matthew Brown, like I mean, the list goes on and on. Borland. I mean, I could name 5 or 6 off the top of my head, but Grusch made it very, very singular in that way, and I found that to be interesting.
It wasn't a good look, but again, he's most likely did not have the questions in advance, and sometimes when you react, that's how it comes out. But I mean, I think everybody felt it should have came out differently. Now, again, he hasn't doubled down on it, but yeah, the whole interview kind of seemed uncomfortable to me. I don't know about you two guys, but it was almost like he got sat down and they were asking questions to rile him up or something. I mean,
well, I don't know. I didn't get that feeling. I felt that he was kind of comfortable, actually. I'll be honest. I'm just being honest.
The disclosure stuff, Oh,
like,
yeah, like it's not really something he wanted to talk about. So I think he was shooting off a hip. I mean, that's kind of what.
Well, okay, so we can get into some of that. I mean, I can definitely see that. I feel like, I mean, what do you think of him not having not seen the entire film?
Well, I'm not going to say he's going to lie, but is that true or not? I don't, we never know. So did he or not? I don't know. But overall, if he would have seen it, it would have been better for the interview. But to him personally, would have that have changed anything he knew or didn't know? Not likely. So, I mean, I guess in that point, I could see what he's.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't
have time for it.
I wouldn't have watched it. If
you were him.
If I were him, and I've lived it. I've been in the room with all of these people. I've heard it over and over and over again. He got what the film was intended to do, and knew it wasn't going to have anything new or earth shattering, so he wasn't gonna spend the $24.
Well, he did bring up the one. There was one thing that hadn't been done before, and that was the James Clapper section. And in Dan Farr's Joe Rogan interview, he had said that he had filmed with James Clapper for about an hour, a little bit, give or take. And I think only like maybe 2 minutes made it into the film. He was, because David Grusch, as in the interview, says, I do commend him for saying something, but he didn't nearly go into what he knows, because at one point he was in charge of delegating people, putting them in the positions of overseeing said legacy program.
Right.
Whether publicly or not.
Yeah. And this was something, that talked about earlier in the week somewhere, that we got to keep in mind, again, that somebody like Clapper, he can be retired, but he still maintains a clearance. He is given that courtesy as, part of inherent to his position. And, he doesn't, he doesn't want to risk or jeopardize any of that. And like anything, you've got to decide what is it you're going to fall on your sword for. And him at 70 plus years old, maybe, does he want all the bullshit in his life of being the guy that comes out and says it, and then he's got to, do the podcast circuit and everything else at that age? Better he just says, well, yeah, maybe there's something, I don't know. Sure there is. Good luck to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, this is the good thing about the show. And again, I'm glad you're putting this on, Ty, because everybody's views on here. I really feel like they mixed it into a narrative of NHI, and everybody's kind of centered on that. And, my relationship with the Senate, and I think we've seen that now with the interviews of the Senate, and the latest one with Gillibrand, where she said cotton switched it to now UAP means drones and things. I felt like it was a narrative of NHI, and you've got that mixed together. So with that said, kind of what I got from the Clapper part was, is that the same thing? Like, if we were to subpoena Clapper and put him in a hearing, as much as people would think we've got him, I think what he would say is, yes, there are programs to capture downed craft. We've always had them. Yes, Darth Vader, Dick Cheney would know about it, but no, they're not alien NHI vehicles to the extent that's been pushed, right? If it crashes, we go get it. But I think that was kind of like what you would get if you put them in a hearing, and it could be like Gene said, it's not necessarily that there's not out there. It could just be him saying, do I want to deal with this shit at
70 something?
And maybe he says,
this age.
What happens if he says, yes, there is a UFO crash retrieval program. There is a highly trained team. They exercise regularly for such a scenario. It has yet to happen.
Gene's got it, because you go to the Dick Cheney thing too, and it's like he was leading it. It's like, if we captured something from any other country, that's who it would go to. Not just UAP and NHI. If we got a hold of one of the jets, or we got a hold of some technology, that's who it goes up to. So it's so easy to switch that to, like Gene's saying, either it hasn't happened or he's talking about regular technology.
Yeah, or use your and this is why I think that, when Arrow uses that language, no evidence of extraterrestrial, I think they're using that word specifically to kind of subvert the truth. They're not lying, but they're omitting the fact that this isn't alien the way we think of it, right? This comes from a different dimension. It comes from, a future timeline, maybe all of the above. It doesn't come from Zeta Reticuli. It doesn't come from Alpha Centauri. It comes from a future version of Earth, or a past, what I mean? That would
all of those might just be possibilities, and the bottom line is they don't know, and they have recovered craft and objects, and they have no idea and cannot offer an opinion on where its origins are.
Yes.
Yeah, it goes back to, Blue Book or anything else. You can always mix human technology with alien, whether you're hiding it or you're hiding the aliens, and you get into a real mess there. Because I can tell you from the Senate, which is the first place I learned about David Grusch before he was public, I was told from the staff they didn't believe him. And I think that's why he went over at the House. And, a staffer came up and told me that Chris Mellon was telling the staffer I was with, Chris Mellon was on the phone, and the staffer kind of gave him the go ahead and talk. These guys are all right. And he said, oh yeah, the op-ed's going to get published in, and we all know it didn't happen. And we were saying it's great news. So I was like, what's going on here? I came in here to testify you guys. Now you're telling me someone that came in and testified has to go in an op-ed at a paper? Like, that defeats the whole purpose of me coming in here. And he's like, oh, no, they didn't really believe him, so he's going to write the op-ed. But my point's not to dog on David Grusch here. It's just to say that when you get into the Senate and why they didn't believe anything is because no evidence was presented in the fact of you forced them to believe it. Even if you went out and saw a 3-fingered or toed live mummy, unless you had a bat and a knapsack, how would you ever prove that that happened or where they're from? I mean, you're fighting a losing battle. And I thought that from the start with Arrow. Anyone that wants to prove NHI or otherwise, it's really a losing battle.
Right.
I mean, you've got to force them to do it. And then when you talk to the Senate, they say, you can tell us whatever you want, but in order to act on it, you have to tell Arrow. And you heard Gillibrand say that about Grusch. She has to go to Arrow so she can actually analyze and get the information back. So if you give SSCI addresses, they're not going to go kick down the doors of where this stuff's hidden. Arrow has to do it. So then you have to think about, do you trust Arrow, or could Arrow find it? And if they don't find it, then it doesn't exist. It's a really complicated mess of it's just not well orchestrated.
Absolutely.
And and I think one of the other aspects of that is, again, the idea of what is evidence, and getting everybody on board. And I've said it time and time again, we are trying to prosecute a case before a judge, let's say, of the United States government, who doesn't have much interest in hearing that case, And even if we are speaking in terms of evidence, right? You look at basically the two types of cases that we have where you are found guilty is either on a preponderance of the evidence or beyond a reasonable doubt. And both of those have different standards of how specific you have to be in what it is. And I think for the most part we have sort of preponderance of evidence, which is what you generally get in like a civil case, right? I get to prove, in a divorce case, it's the preponderance of evidence that one spouse is shittier than the other.
Right.
And keep in mind, Gillibrand and others on that committee, guess what they did before they went in? They're all attorneys. Yeah, Gillibrand was an attorney. So there you go. You've got to present the case to her right.
Yeah. Okay. And that's fair. That's fair enough. I did like one thing that was discussed in that, and that Megyn was saying, or Megyn had made that remark, like, these aren't just crackpots, and if they are, then they sure found a lot of them in our government at highly placed individuals with quite reputable backgrounds. And if they're all saying this, there is this legacy program, does that not constitute as evidence? I mean, I think the UFO community is in a place where more story and testimony is not going to move the needle forward. It is going to be, I think the next thing that needs to happen is some sort of physical piece of evidence. Whatever form that takes, I don't really know. But I mean,
you're right. Yeah, you're right.
We could sit here and try to prove it to the government, or we could get something that is actionable, right? Something that is irrefutable. And I think that's what people need to be focused on. If there are these metamaterials laying around with multiple people, I mean, should we not start turning in and looking on that?
Well, I mean, that gets complicated, right? Because who are the people?
Jacques Flay, Gary Nolan.
Probably get it from. If you're a company like me, definitely, I'm going to fight it tooth and nail. From my understanding, the owner of Skinwalker Ranch, whether you believe it or not, he had a problem with that eminent domain as well. So it gets tricky on that. But the Nimitz encounter was great for this community. However, there was some downside unintentionally to it, which is that I think when they went in and looked, they felt like they were going to find another Nimitz, where you had Top Gun pilots flying next to it, other planes, other people like on the Hawkeye that seen it, radar operators, and they didn't get another Nimitz case. And so you kind of have to almost one up yourself as you move forward. And a one up with proof. It's only been one-ups where now someone's coming and saying all
This
these things
thing happened.
and or there's these different species of lizards and Nordics, and because it's not proof, you're going down instead of up. So if you can't at least meet the limits, then you really are going to have some sort of physical material that will pass testing to push forward, and that's where we're stuck.
That is where we're stuck.
Well,
I think.
and I mean, and I don't want to take it too far off topic, Ty, but let's really think about it, right? Has the Nimitz been investigated to the full extent that it should be? And has Congress asked all of the questions that really should have been asked and brought in people from the DOD and these policy people? Have they examined the chain of custodies for these tapes and recordings, and for the analytical data? Have they had that analytical data certified or verified in some other way? Have they had other independent experts who looked at the data and examined it? Again, are they doing an investigation, or are they checking a box that we had a hearing because we have this committee?
It's the box. It's the box. I got in discussions with them because the Nimitz was something they wanted to talk to me a lot about, especially when you get into things like data links and things they could go back and look at and match up. And, some of the things that I picked apart from them, which was, how come is it, the radar operator finally convinced them to fly out there and take a look at it? But if you listen to another part of that story, Gary Voorhees, if I'm saying his name right, is picking them up nights in a row with binoculars floating off right off the water. How is it on a boat in a training range, you don't send a ship or a helicopter out there to figure out what in the hell is off your bow that you can pick up binoculars with lights floating each night? You had to contact somebody and say, get out of our way, get out of our operation. Who is this?
That was something really odd with the Nimitz case. Is you had, like you said, you had the Gary Voorhees who had said he had seen it, and then I believe the guy Sean Cahill, Sean Cahill, he had said that they had shut down the deck of the ship, and he got stuck out there, and he was by himself, and then just saw this thing rise out of the water, and was Tic Tac shaped. I believe that was Sean Cahill who had that story. And I mean,
there's just some questions like where were the lights at? Because we have a pretty good idea of what the Tic Tac looked like without going into what I know. So there wasn't lights on the Tic Tacs. That means you have two different craft or two different generations that could have been possibly U.S. craft testing, but we know we have flavor that says it's not ours. However, how does that mean it's NHI? Because you think about it, the greatest cases there is, like the Rendlesham Forest and the Ariel School case, you have things like radiation burns, subliminal messaging. Nobody from that case has said they got any messages from ESP. The Hawkeye that actually was next to it, that flew next to it, was not crashed, but it came down too hard not too long after that, and they salvaged the dish on it and took that Hawkeye to a boneyard. Radiation has a shelf life. That's never been tested for radiation. With the battle fleet that was there, the Carrier Strike Group, they would have picked up on radiation. So no, there really hasn't been a proper investigation. There's just
and
people
the time is
out
gone
and said this
now.
is definitely alien, and it's like it doesn't fit anything that we're talking about.
And you get, and that's why I say, so when, again, Burleson was saying, oh yeah, I don't really know what we could have for hearings. I got a shitload of ideas for you. Right. So why don't you get Dylan Borland back on there then, and get NASA on the same hearing. And why don't you have NASA explain what's at the hangar at Langley? And why don't you talk about that? Plenty of things that can be chased down, right? And you can even do the tale of three triangles. Put Jeff Nuccitelli, Borland, and Whistling Mike, on the panel to talk about, triangle-shaped craft. plenty of things that they can cover if they are serious about diving down into the issues.
That would be an interesting, and I get that. You know, and I guess, you know, it kind of starts making me think, right? Are we headed down a path? You know, obviously, when it first started with when Kenneth Arnold saw the craft, they're more like bat wing looking, but he was describing how they flew, and said it was like a, you know, flying saucer, like skipping through the air, and the media dubbed it the flying saucer. For the next 20 years, that was what was seen, right? By the George Adamskis, by the Ray Santilli, by everyone saw discs for a long time, and then it shifted to black triangles, and then it shifted to the Tic Tac, and now we're gotten to a place where it's like orbs and angels.
You nailed it. Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah,
so either we're being, our perception is being fucked with, or or something else is happening, and I can't quite put my finger on what that is, because what are the how could you explain the change over time unless it was by design or by screwing up?
Yeah. So the statement made was that it moved like a saucer on water, I believe is what it was. And then somehow that got interpreted to it was a saucer shaped craft, which was not, you know, the accurate. So then it went from that to actually a saucer shaped craft that had a window on top where somebody would look out, you know, and have to fly from this plane.
Like the airship,
it wouldn't be remotely controlled, right? We thought about stuff like we did in the 1800s, the 20s, the 30s. So now we're a little bit smarter, I think, in 2025. But so we don't think you have to look out and steer it anymore. So the window thing on top has gone away. But like Ty's saying, and this is one of the reasons why I've never completely described what I've seen, because guess what? Everybody's now going to see exactly what I say I've seen. And I watch when people say, oh, I've got a picture, or somebody says we've got some footage someone took, a fighter pilot. I've never seen it match up. So, I mean, that is an issue in this community. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're not telling the truth, you've seen something, but it does, our mind, human nature forms that together. And we've seen that with drones, right? If you fly drones close enough together, it now looks like a solid shape. Your eyes and mind, your brain naturally fills in the blank. So it gets weird.
Right. And it is something I've been pondering lately, because, you know, it really has shifted to the orb stuff. And there's this new sense of like I've noticed that people are like, it kind of took a really like I think faith took a downturn. You know, the churches saw fallings out, like the people not coming anymore. But now we're kind of like back on this weird upswing where people are becoming or at least leading with this idea of their belief in God. And now we're, you know, again, we're back to this orb thing, and people seeing orbs and balls of light and divine presence. And so it's just, obviously I want to talk about Chris Bledsoe and this whole prophecy about the lady, and because it's, for me, it's something we've heard before.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the problem. We all grew up in church, so it's okay, and it's on our money, and every president that's went ahead has said there is somebody in the sky that has essentially created us. So this part of it is okay from what we've grown up with, even though people are switching it to something different. But that's part of society versus saying green men or NHI, and I think that's kind of what's going on. So
to kind of introduce it for people, Chris is actually, I've met Chris several times. He's a fantastic person. He is one of the most kind, humble, there's this essence about him when you're around him that it does feel, and I dare I say this, it does feel spiritual when you're, I can, I don't know what it is about him, but he gives off that vibe. He's very, very calm. I was able to introduce him at Contact in the Desert before he did one of his panels, and you know, the room just erupted when you say his name. Just, I want to talk about, so he went on American Alchemy lately, just recently, and you know, we're talking about the orbs and this new idea of UFOs, orbs being predominantly what people are seeing. Chris Bledsoe is not, he doesn't fit the typical like UFO insider, if you will, that archetype. I mean, he's a religious Southern, you know, businessman, realtor, or are you selling houses at one point? Again, deeply Christian. Initially, he was terrified and very resistant to the phenomena. He was originally someone who did not seek fame, power, or too much of a disclosure activism. And yet, Bledsoe becomes one of the most quietly monitored experiencers in modern history. According to Bledsoe and other corroborating interviews, not only have NASA scientists breached, you know, his bubble, but CIA adjacent individuals, defense and intelligence figures, high-level aerospace visitors, guys of mythic proportion, like Tim Taylor, who I really want to know a lot more about, nicknamed the Dragon for some reason, and also has spun out this idea. There's this idea, you know, Tim Taylor had contacted Dr. Gary Nolan, contacted Diana Pasolka, Charles Hall, Chris Bledsoe. So why is this guy showing up at all these different areas? And why, who is he? What is his stake in all this? He's not on the circuit. He's not on the podcast circuit. So no one can be like, this guy's seeking fame, right? This Tim guy, I want to know as much as I can about him, because he seems to be what we dare say is the real deal. I don't know. I don't know. But all of it shows sustained interest in him, in Chris Bledsoe. Not just the orbs, not that he can call them in. It wasn't just the sightings or experiences. It was the message. The message. And this alone raises one of my first critical questions. Why would institutions that publicly dismiss prophecy privately monitor a man claiming divine contact, divine feminine contact?
Gene, you want to go first or me?
Open up.
Well, I'll go first. I'll go first.
I'll keep going too. I'll keep going.
No,
With the whole thing.
Listen, you know, what you described and the way you described it, the beautiful, almost poetic way that you articulated even your own experience with Chris, just reaffirms in my mind that he's a cult leader.
Oh, Gene, I'm gonna have to push back there.
I know you have to, because
let's make sure, Gene, we say that this is different views talking. This is not Ty's voice. This is just our different views.
This is different view. So
okay. So I do not, and I'll let you talk, of course.
No.
Right? I just want to make it known that is not my stance.
Yeah, that is not your stance. That is what I am saying.
I'll refute it too.
Is that all of that conduct and behavior is in the response that is generated because of it is very, very consistent. So that, you know, a lady in white shows up, then I'm wrong. Until then, all of the behavior is consistent with portraying the Messiah avatar, right? And creating that aura through the storytelling and the self-sacrifice and the and the thing being thrust upon them unwillingly and all the rest of it. So I don't so I listen, and again, I've dealt enough in law enforcement and everything else. I know there's no point arguing the point or trying to convince anybody otherwise, right? It's impossible. There are specialists, who do this and, still have trouble getting through to people to do it. So I'm nowhere near, qualified to even begin going down that road. So I just sit with, if what he says happens, then I'm wrong.
And you're okay, fair enough.
I mean, I'm going to agree with Gene, but because there's no point of repeating things, because Gene is right. Whatever people believe, they believe. So I'll say two things that are different than what he said, so we don't just have the broken record. The first one is, I've been talking a little bit on podcasts and things at a particular agency, and that agency contacted me because we talked and we have each other's phone numbers. Where's that sounds? And they asked me to quit, because when I talk about them, they can't do what they're trying to do. So when you come out and you start talking about stuff, this show right now, Ty, it'll be listened to, everything I've done. They reference exact tweets. And this is not a surprise. This is not making myself sound special. We heard Kirkpatrick say that they basically told him his address was showing up on the internet. I mean, it's what they do, right? They're going to watch all this stuff and see what gets said. So I have a problem with that, because it seems like it's the same folks, once you hear the name instead of some of the agencies, that are kind of in this echo chamber. That's not me knocking them. They're obviously highly intelligent, but it still kind of is like, really, the CIA, what part? And then it's like, well, here's the name of the person that would work there, was a contractor. And it's like, oh, yep, I know that person, and I know how strong they are to it. The second part I want to say, which I think is,
so are you commenting on people like Jim Semivan?
Right. That'd be like one of them.
Are you saying he's not working on behalf? Because I'm just trying to clear this up for
no.
So he's not working on behalf of the CIA when he contacts Bledsoe, or he's just not reputable?
Neither of those, but I'm glad you asked me so I could explain it. That's a fair question. What I'm saying is, every person in this space that I've been talking to, and I mean, I kind of talk to anybody, hear them out, that tells me they've been in contact with the CIA and these different agencies, when they get to who it was or who they met, it's always the same guys or person. It's not necessarily the CIA. Now, there is some, you can say, clout in that, but again, it's not necessarily, we're like, I have a trip, and I don't want to go too much of what I do or Gene does, but there's a trip coming up probably, and we're going to end up at headquarters of some of these agencies in DC. So if I was to say I'm talking to this agency, that's what I would mean, not one particular person. That's just my explanation. That's not me trying to discredit Semivan or anybody. And I'm just saying we need to walk through and say, is it one person that everybody in this field knows, or is it someone we don't know, or an entire agency coming into headquarters? That's all. That's, again, I'm not trying, I don't want to be on here, with people's views. The second thing I'll say, which is probably the most important and maybe get into this, is when I met with the UAP caucus, I'm not going to say who in it because it wouldn't be fair to them. Bledsoe came up, and they wanted to know if I would work with Bledsoe. Now, Bledsoe was never asked. I never had an agreement, nothing like that. They felt like I was missing an opportunity from human tech to go out and capture these sort of images and high resolution videos and data links of what he calls in these orbs. And I said, sure. And we even have the government funding expert who was there to tell him how we could fund it all say, yeah, we can include that in. It'd be like an ultimate red team, right? Because if it's in the air, we need to know whether it's alien, Chinese, ours. And they turned that down. They didn't want to fund it. So we don't have those answers. Now, I'm going to kind of leave it off there. I know that's an open-end statement, but I'm just saying
Fair.
people are going to have to understand, if you want answers, we're going to have to fund some things as we talk about moving forward in 2026.
And Ty, the one thing I can add too about what was it, Tim Taylor,
Yes.
and that he doesn't appear on podcasts and all the rest of it. So my understanding is that he works for a company that is contracted to NASA, and he has access to some facilities at NASA, and that in the person that conveyed this said it seems he's sort of a I don't want to say credibility seeker, but he enjoys being in the background and bringing everybody on the tours and being talked about, but he doesn't, seek the clout himself. And that the places he brings the people to are just kind of like any employee, can bring them there. And there's actually somebody who filed a inspector general complaint with NASA about a contractor, this person as a
That was just recently done, though, right? And I feel
Right.
like all of this has been kicked up by the conversation that I had with Burleson, where you made the statement about Bledsoe, and then the American Alchemy episode that came out with Bledsoe. Like it happened right at the same time, so it was kind of odd for me to watch it get, because Tim Taylor is someone that is really is at the not the heart of the Chris Bledsoe story, but at the heart of a lot of UFO, like Diana Pasolka and Dr. Gary Nolan. I mean, apparently this guy brought them out to a place blindfolded, but also brought them to the Vatican. So that doesn't sound like a person who just has regular access to just random places. So I just don't know who's right, because I haven't heard
what
from
did
the
we
guy
get from the
himself.
Vatican? What was gotten from the Vatican visit?
Diana Pasolka was able to get into the archives, like the Vatican archives, only with Tim Taylor. And the way Bledsoe says it, Bledsoe talks about it, how Bledsoe is supposed
We
to
have
go.
photos and videos and everything of her in the archives.
I don't think I've seen them.
Yeah. So Ty's saying that's her narrative. Yeah, that's her.
Yeah. So, and I guess I'll just go through this then, and then maybe we could talk about the story as a whole, because I see that I might be on one side of this, and I might.
You are.
Like
you need to call somebody and get a fourth person in here.
No, I'm sure there's plenty to back you up. I mean, again,
but when Bledsoe describes the lady experienced, for me, I mean, I immediately recognize something very old, right? So if you're going to go by his definition, she's a feminine, she's radiant, luminous, she's calm, loving, a bit authoritative, and a bearer of untimely knowledge that transcends seemingly the whole, cosmos and universe, maybe, and that this entity is concerned with humanity's moral direction. So again, this is something we hear a lot, and I bring this up because, again, figures across civilizations, across history, Hathor, Isis in Egypt. Hathor was, and this is something that Chris talks about, is the lady being Hathor or Sophia. Hathor was the goddess of the sky and the stars, directly associated with the star of Regulus, which is the king star. Hathor was a guide for souls between worlds, which is another interesting thing if we want to talk about near-death experiences, right? It's linked to rebirth cycles and the divine order, from my research. And he talks about this prophecy that he was told about the Sphinx. And the Sphinx itself is said to predate, potentially predate dynastic Egypt. Of course, that's highly debated for obvious reasons. Guys like, what's that guy's name? It was the worst Rogan episode. It was the antiquities guy from Egypt.
I don't know. The worst Rogan episode brings up so many.
Come on. Come on. You guys are killing me tonight. Dude.
No, yeah, no, I know that.
Packing my heroes. No, what's that guy's name? The Egyptian antiquities guy.
Yeah, we'll come up in a second. Just so I'm clear on that, Ty. When I talked to Brosen, he went on Tim Pool and spoke about me, and then Rogan played that clip, and I didn't even know about it. Someone sent it to me.
Damn,
on
I wish
that clip.
Rogan would play one of my fucking clips.
Yeah, he's listening to Burleson talk about me, and then Rogan goes on to refer to me as a bitch. Like, he's like, oh, this guy's got videos, like, show me, bitch. And then he's got this other guy on there that's from the CIA. I got to score settle with him. It's not you. I got to score settle with Rogan.
I think, but I think Rogan, what Rogan is doing there is you just happen to be the example on that situation. But I think Rogan is almost at the point that we're all at the community where it's like, fucking show us. We're so done. We're done with the fucking, trust me. And I'm not saying this towards you or anyone, of course. It's just like general people who don't really live and breathe this topic, who don't have a passion for it. They don't want to hear another hearing at this point. They're like, okay, we've heard fucking CIA, we've heard DIA, we've heard, all these places, we've seen these videos. Show us. Like, we got shit going on. People are scamming the government out of billions of dollars. They're fucking ISIS shooting people. Israel's doing things. Ukraine, Russia. There's shit that's happening on the world right now where we need to get our shit together. So people don't have a lot of bandwidth for this existentialism, if you will. But so
back to the lady.
Back to the lady.
Yeah. I was just going to say, your comparison of the history of these goddesses, I don't know what you want to call them, sort of appearing and using their finding their intermediaries, let's say, and people to spread the messages. That's, I find it, again, one of those puzzling questions of the universe. It's like, boy, like Hades doesn't use an intermediary, the Grim Reaper,
Yeah.
When the angel of death comes,
no, he fucking comes. He comes
like the
himself.
angel of death doesn't come and appear and hang out in the sky for a while, or give somebody, he doesn't give you a heads up that he's coming. And you'd think of all of them, that would be the one that would be most useful to humanity. The appearance that says, you've got 48 hours left, make the most of it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
But that one we never get in history. We get, be nice to each other and I'll appear later at some time.
Yeah, they always do. These deities, they always say that they'll be back. And
the only one that comes back, Angel of Death.
Yeah, the Angel of Death.
Got one there live.
Well, but
the only one you can count on.
Yeah,
I do find it to be interesting. I was looking through some of the Egyptian cosmology, if you will, and started to realize that I think that what they looked at when they spoke about, and this could be true about many cultures and civilizations through our ancient past, and potentially civilizations we don't even know existed here on this earth, that the stars were not a metaphor. They were literal beings, and they were the gods, if you will. And I just find that to be interesting with our current paradigm of we still look up. It's just there's a different lens that we're seeing through. And Bledsoe also brings up the idea of this character, Sophia. And I think that has more ties to Gnosticism. Sophia, but also Sophia, much similar to Hathor, is that divine, feminine, like wisdom. And I believe Jake Barber talked about this too, about an orb that he passed through when he was flying the helicopter. And he had this, this feeling of warmth throughout him. Now, if you believe his story or not, I'm just drawing similarities for people who know. Sophia, also in my research, is a being who had descended to, again, it's this common theme, descends to help humanity, or to give it this revealer of like forbidden or hidden knowledge. Gnostic texts warned about wisdom that could liberate, but it could also fracture reality if misunderstood. So one of my things here is, what if the wisdom, what if, I think that's true. I think that's true of everything, that we can all agree to that wisdom can liberate people, right? Humanity, society. But are we currently misunderstanding that to some degree? And that leads to a fracturing of reality itself. We see that consensus reality far too often outweighs the objective reality, right?
Right.
Like, so
100%.
just be right. And that's scary. Like if someone labels you a pedo, and then you go to trial and then you're found innocent, but your name's already been dragging through the mud, and you've been labeled this thing by society, and then legally you're said to be not guilty, not a lot of people still going to hang out with you, buddy.
Like, yeah, it doesn't go back to where it was.
Yeah. So just because 2 + 2 = 4, does it really even fucking matter if society says it's 5? If the real answer is 4, what is more real? What society thinks, or what the real reality is? So I just bring that up because it's an interesting point, and I think it's something that we need to really hone in on, because the mirrors that modern intelligence, this whole thing that mirrors the modern intelligence, really concerns me with ontological shock, and what people can do, what the internet is already doing to people, right? How it's already warping what the truth is, and how we see reality. So what is this all coming to? I think Bledsoe talks about how Regulus, the star, is special. Some of the things I found, obviously, about it's the king star, the heart of the lion, in astrology. Regulus is tied to kingship, revelation, and downfall. Interesting, that last one, downfall. There's a quote that I found: Success is revenge is avoided. Ruin if power is abused. Sounds like Yoda said it, but it's from one of these books that was talking about the connection between the Sphinx. And there's this apparently, Bledsoe has his first sighting or experience. He's taken by these orbs, and then later on he encounters this orb that knocks him over like physically, and he looks up and he sees an orb, but he's looking, and the orb then becomes like a bull, like a bull, and he's looking through the bull and he's seeing constellations in the bull. And the lady ends up telling Chris Bledsoe that, long story short, when the star of Regulus appears red above the horizon in the gaze of the Sphinx, humanity will ascend to this new place. There's to be this new knowledge, and I mean, this is a prophecy that apparently has been kicking around. In his book UFO of God, he said that it's going to happen in Easter 2026. Now that is being debated, because first off, Regulus is not a red star. It is, I actually made this mistake. It is not a red star by design or by nature, by optic reality. It is a bluish white. So and it would naturally, stars do rise in the east, and the Sphinx is looking due east. So it's not uncommon to think that the Star of Regulus would be there at one point. It's just this whole thing about it appearing red. Stars don't just change overnight. They change over hundreds of thousands of years in color. So all that to say, and I still have a bunch more, but I want to let you guys in now. This prophecy that he thought was going to be happening in Easter 2026, now that it is 2026, the date is being moved and talked about and challenged. So that is another thing that gives me this kind of irreverent pause. Could this be some? I asked myself, could this be some sort of false prophecy? Could Bledsoe actually be experiencing these things? And could it? Because we've been warned about false prophecies, right? That is another thing. Yeah, it's literally in, like, you know, that it's in just as much as the themes that he's touching on are in these divine texts or these ancient texts, but also the idea of the trickster. Jacques Vallée has talked about this. Could Bledsoe have been tricked to put this angelic lens now that everyone is seeing it through? I don't know. I just don't know why the government is so interested in him. If they are, if everything he's saying is true, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, well, let's take the, you know, kind of take Bledsoe out of it in the government and kind of look at what we're talking about. Yeah.
Then there's so after we did the interview, after I did the interview with Burleson, and then the interview with Jesse came out, he dropped this picture of a green orb with what looks like numbers on the inside. I had this up here for a while. So I don't know. It all seemed very timely again. So what do you guys think of this?
I think, you know, when people pass away, and I don't want to get on that today, but I'm confident something happens. I don't know about which particular religion has the true story. You know, there's actually a degree you can get on religious studies, and I would have liked to have, you know, went through all that. I did take some of it, but, you know, what do you do when you're done, right? That's kind of a narrowed down thing. But, you know, they talk about how in one particular religion, I'm not going to say it because I don't want this to be offensive to anybody, but, you know, there is a blue, you know, 8-armed figure that they pray to as a god for a certain thing. You know, if you're a Catholic or a Christian, like here in the U.S., not everybody, but some, then it's much different. And then you believe that there was an ark built and 2 of every animal was put on it. And of course, the Bible, everything that happened in the Bible happened only in Israel. How was there a world flood? There are questions, but man wrote all these.
How did people get into heaven before Jesus?
Yeah, and then you get into Jehovah's Witnesses. There is no hell for Jehovah's Witnesses. So then the only thing all religions have in common is that they all tell you that that can be your only religion and your only God. And if you look at any other religion, you're basically sinning. So it gets real weird. But what you'll find is, you know, like my wife's full-blooded Navajo, they believe that particular animals are their ancestors, not particularly my wife, but that's what you would call the religion and the great creator. And they all have these mass amounts of people that believe in it. You would go into Scientology. So what you have is different views in people that will gladly buy into it or believe into it. Bledsoe's story to me, and this isn't against anything Mormon-like, but it reminds me of, you know, Mormons, where it's one gentleman particularly that started the religion, came across plates. Only he could read them because he was given the way to decipher them. And when people said, cool, show us the plates, he couldn't produce the plates. It gets weird like that in religion. Now, I'm not knocking Mormons. Don't write me hate mail. I'm just saying these are kind of what I see when I hear Bledsoe's story, where it's like people are jumping in. It matches up on so many levels. And for me,
you know,
it just doesn't add up.
Another thing that kind of, I want to show you guys something in a second that it kind of actually, if I'm being honest, actually, I don't know why I said that.
You're always honest. Yeah. What is it?
I'm always honest. But if I'm being, in the same way that the Eric Hecker shit kind of got to me personally, the video that I'm going to show you guys got to me personally. But continue your thought and I'll show you guys after.
Well, it's just to say that religion always follows the same guidelines, where there's a particular person that's getting the message, there's a particular person that has to deliver it. Here's why you should follow it. Here's the end of times prophecy. That's one thing they always have in common. I mean, it fits too perfectly for a new communication to come out that doesn't fit any other religion,
Yeah. And okay, so here, Ryan Bledsoe, which is Chris Bledsoe's son, has a podcast called Bledsoe Said So. And
he does, doesn't he?
I think it's on the little on the nose on this one.
Yeah.
But yes. But he is this video, I think, was a little bit. This is clips from a recent show that he did talking about other experiencers. And this is this concerned me on several levels because of the way that, again, it's like you had mentioned earlier. And I'm not agreeing with you by any means, but about what you said. I preface that for obvious.
Yeah.
But you said all religion, when someone tells you, hey, this is what to believe, and you can't believe anything else, that's usually a red flag, right? We can all probably agree.
It's a red flag, yeah.
Right? It's a big red flag. That's why people don't like Greer. That's why people are off-putting by cult leaders, by that kind of stuff. Well, and I'm not inferring that Ryan or Chris or anything is like that. Again, I'm the one advocating that I think Chris's story is actually true. But then his son says this kind of shit, and it just was like, wait, what are you doing?
Yeah, people need to see this.
Can you guys hear it?
Oh, come on, Ryan. You're being so harsh. Believe the witness. Believe the experiencer.
Yeah, I
don't give a shit. I don't know. I just don't find any genuine reason to accept that any of that stuff is real. It was, all of the abduction stories where they take your semen or your eggs, or, they put a baby inside of you like some, genetic hybrid program. And that was the only thing of the time. And we stood out. We were like a voice in the wilderness saying, hey, actually, it's spiritual. Maybe you guys are all wrong. Maybe you guys are the freaking crazy ones. We're not crazy. This is real. NASA's knocking on our freaking door, whether it's a gray, whether it's a reptilian, whether it's a mantis, whether it's X number of thing that people, say that they experience. This is psychic phenomenon. This is mental phenomenon. These are not physical beings walking around in our world, right? The only beings that have the permission and the capacity to walk around in our world are the beings of light, the ones that the Bledsoes have been shouting at the rooftops about, the ones that we've been dealing with.
So I have a problem.
We are the only source. We are the only knowledge of truth. We are the ones who cannot be deceived, and anyone else who is trying is the deceiver.
Would you guys like some Kool-Aid?
Yes, please.
I can't even. Obviously, that video is edited, but trust me, the sentiment is the same. Listening to the whole thing, I just can't. We couldn't grab it all. I actually listened to that episode and I was like, whoa, why would you say that? You just alienated so many people, Ryan. And
not necessarily, because again, people want to believe, and they want to believe they are part of something bigger than themselves.
Anything that's not what they're experiencing, he doesn't believe it.
Yeah, I would say on X today, a lot of people were saying what Ty's saying, which is
that's alienating.
It was, if you're a believer in the grabbing the eggs and semen, you got mad over this. You also got mad that you got told that you're. I mean,
I mean, again, and I've got to run here in the next 10 minutes or so. But I think it fits a pattern, much like Stephen Greer, who took a 1920s transcendental meditation system of somebody who connected with the gods, and the gods told them the things and told them how to meditate, and you can get them to come to you. He repackaged it through Alien and ET in the place of God, and, you know, pushes that out as CE5. So very much in the same way, they've taken what are, you know, ancient and cyclical, right in my father-in-law's stuff too. He talks about the movements of the cosmos, the influences on humanity. But, you know, again, he wasn't, you know, he's not saying he's a prophet. He's saying in very scientific terms, these cycles are known, and during these cycles, it is known certain things happen and it affects humanity in a certain way. And, you know, he lays it out very black and white. And all he needed to do was just take that and put some mysticism around it, and he could have started his own religion. In fact, I'll tell you, that was one of the things I, you know, as I was going through all of this, you know, I playing around on GPT, I said, well, if I take all this, can I start my own religious movement out of it? They're like, oh yes, absolutely.
But
You know, you
I
can,
think you could start your own religious movement with your father-in-law's papers too, though. Like,
yes, no, that's what I'm talking about.
oh,
Right.
oh, I
So
think
if I wanted, so I can talk about the dream, right? The papers that came to us, and then there was the dream that came to the woman figure, and you know, and I can make a whole fucking thing out of it.
Well,
Yeah,
right.
I agree
your
with you. Ian.
And get me a robe, and I can calculate
I thought
the predictions, right? I can expand the math in order to tell you what's going to happen in 26 and 27 and 35, and I can make it sound very prophetic. And
well, I figured out of all the people that would maybe give something like this a chance would be, I really did think it would be you, Gene. Given that he does talk about this raising of consciousness in 2026, when that is something that you have talked about that are from the papers, right?
And again,
so what's the difference?
The difference is the Messiah.
And I don't mean to be an asshole. I'm not.
I'm not trying to be one either. I mean, the difference.
You know, I love you.
The difference is the Messiah framing.
Okay.
The difference is the framing of this supernatural connection to, you know, if he came straight out and was like, you know, I was studying, you know, whatever maybe his religious text or, you know, alternative, whatever it is. Geez, I'm studying these texts and I found this stuff and it really resonates with me. And, you know, and he talked about it in these terms. And then maybe even says, you know, and I even had a dream about it one night. And that I can buy more than the Messiah avatar.
I definitely see where you're coming from.
And that's why I say, and then that behavior is consistent when you look in other cases where people do these things, and you know, it's a pattern because it's a pattern. It's right. You know, there's a psychology behind it because they've studied the psychology of people who try to lead movements and you know, fall into these patterns.
Yeah, and I mean, Bledsoe's message, if you boil it down, I drew comparisons to others like Edgar Cayce. You know, the earth changes, the knowledge, the hidden knowledge in Egypt, a shift in human consciousness. Then the Hopi blue star prophecy, which was the final star sign, time of purification. It was choice, not necessarily a fate, as one would see. And then the book of Revelation, of course, right? A woman clothed in the sun, a dragon in the heavens, and knowledge and judgment intertwined. They're all kind of warnings, and you know, I think mixed with judgment and knowledge at the same time. So I guess the real question is, will something happen in 2026? And what if it happens and humanity believes something, or no, what happens if humanity believes something is supposed to happen? Does it shape that belief? Does it change it into a fear? Does it change the power structure of it? Does it change the compliance? And we've talked about on this show how, if you know, how our thoughts and intention actually affect the matter around us, right? So like when you're having a bad day and you hit every fucking red light, it's because you're in that mindset and you're just attracting that negativity. And then your coffee gets made wrong, you pop a tire, this, that. But when you're having a good day and everything goes right, it's like you're on some sort of different wavelength. So these are things I'm grappling with. Someone else is here too, though.
Yeah. And, and again, I think the idea,
Vito.
What up?
I think the idea that, and that's the thing with prophecy and predictions and all the rest of it, right? Because then, you can take the guy in Ghana, right? Just said Christmas Day, there's going to be a flood. No flood. Oh, I prayed, and, the flood didn't happen. We can go into Easter 2026 and there can be an earthquake somewhere. And then he can pop up and say, oh, see, this is what I was talking about.
Yes,
they can make it whatever they want to make it and rationalize it.
I see that as a problem, to be honest.
And then kick the prophecy can down the road when it doesn't come true, right? Which is like every few months when it comes to, oh, it's almost here. Oh, maybe it's next time. The sign tells me next time. So that's what I've
even
seen.
Wilcox did that kind of shit.
They all do.
Religion again, when you go through the history of religion, and I'm kind of impressed Ty did all that. The Hopi were very into the stars and astrology, and that's kind of where that prophecy comes from. It's pretty amazing for people that are into that. But even Catholics and Christianity, at one point in time, it was God's will to explore new lands and take their gold and kill anybody that didn't want to become that religion. It gets kind of odd when you get into people that are getting messages in, religious views of what should be going or how special they are. There's not a good history of prophets going back all the way until the time that the Bible was written or your particular Bible for your religion. And even then the events in it, like the Ark, 2 of every animal in the world on it, it gets odd, so I think religion.
I had a dream I hit the Powerball, and it was 2 sets of numbers, and I remembered the 2 sets of numbers, and I consistently play those 2 sets of numbers, and I particularly play them when the amount of the drawing is the amount that I dreamed about that I want. Yet I still have yet to win. So does that mean I'm not praying hard enough? Does that mean that the vision that was put in my head by the gods was to mislead me? If I win 120 million instead of just 20 million, what does that say? Does that mean I went over and above what it was that the gods wanted me to do?
Well, I mean,
good question. Yeah. I'll take either or personally.
Seriously.
Well, if we all pray hard enough, perfect storm. If we
should
focus our energies on Gene winning the next Powerball.
Why isn't every remote viewer a fucking billionaire?
Right.
Problem with that. Yeah, that's the problem with that.
That's always struck me as a little odd, right? It's like, why did these guys die in a motel room at Motel 6? What the fuck? How did
you didn't see it coming? You didn't see it coming, buddy? Like, what the hell?
I don't mean to.
I've got to check out. Thanks again, Ty. Appreciate the invitation.
Nice to meet you.
Good to see everyone you do. Wish I had more time. And
he's a good guy.
My name is Vito, by the way.
All right, Vito. I'm Gene.
It's a fine Irish name.
A couple weeks to do this again.
All right, thank you.
But for everyone else, my episode with Gene and go into his story and his father-in-law's. If you want to plug yourself on the way out, I am going to be dropping an episode this week from in the studio right behind me, actually just right around me. And that episode has been really a while in the making.
Yeah, thank you.
I look forward to seeing that one.
And see you all again soon.
Well, where can people find the papers, idiot?
Engineeringinfinitybook.com.
There it is. All right, Gene.
Or just focus your attention on it, and they will come to you.
Oh my God, I'm gonna get canceled.
What's up, Joey?
I'm gonna get canceled in the UFO community for this.
Come at you with the pitchfork.
And to clear up again, me and Gene's views are quite a bit different from Ty, and Ty has his own voice. That's the good part of this. No one's fighting, everybody's discussing.
No,
it's good. I love this format that you're putting on.
I literally just put it in the comments, and my worst enemy can show up and talk to me. I don't think I have a worst enemy, but I mean, actually, you know what? Maybe I do. A couple people definitely don't like me, but I mean, anyone can pop in and while we're live and jump into the conversation. So
I like that. I do the same thing. I do the same thing with my gaming channel, actually, and I'm going to be doing the same thing with my UFO channel. Yeah, Mike's been on a couple times, and you can come on as well anytime you want.
Yeah, when I was doing like when I was doing Hollywood and in that world, that's how we used to run the show. Basically, if it wasn't a one-on-one interview, it was just, we kind of kept it to a certain set of people. But like, I had like 8 people I could call on, and they were just there every fucking time, and it was just it was amazing. But it was also like, it's a concerning.
It's like Tough Crowd, right? Like Tough Crowd with Colin Quinn back in the day. Yeah.
What else do you have on your papers, Ty, that you're wanting to? Because I know you're trying to. What's your other hot button items on them?
Dude, I'm so glad you're a good
I'm the co-chair. I just need a catch.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. I guess some of the questions that I ask, and I want to close this out with before I play some of the Jesse Michaels episode, and we can look at that orb a little bit more in depth. I want to see what you guys see. If the lady is real, could she be a true guide? Right. I think that is a question. If she is symbolic, could she be a mirror? If she is deceptive, she also might be the test. And if she is this managed myth, then the question isn't what's coming. It's who is deciding what we're told. All of those are things I think should be answered one way or another. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is she? For sure. What the hell is she?
So
why is she?
Why is she? Yeah.
There was a study done, and I'm sure we can dig it up online. It's probably 15 years ago, though, and it was more of just a poll study, but decently done. And it was how many people have essentially hear voices in their head, not to the extreme of like it's telling you to do stuff, but you just, you can hear stuff or voices. And I remember it was over half. And so if you base it on that, and I was shocked by it too, I was like, wow, that many?
Is this post invention of benzos?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, right.
I remember being about 15 years ago, but I guess my point being is, at what point in time does that become a religious experience for you versus like, did I just hear somebody say something versus, maybe, and I'm not including the Bledsoes in this, but, or is there something maybe psychological or mental going on, or is that just normal? Because when you get into brains, this comes up when you get into things like exorcisms. Is it that you're driving out this particular demon, or is it that this kid has grown up in this and they're used to this? Then you get into things like we have to prove it by speaking a language you can't speak. What is our brain capable of? I mean, it goes down a slip here. I don't have the exact answer for you. I'm just saying this may not be as rare as we think to have this sort of
to be able to connect in our head. Supposedly it's 80%, according to Batista and those people.
Could be. I'm not.
I mean, I don't know for sure.
It's not rare where it's like, wow, you're getting messages. Now, seeing things is a different scenario, but
right.
Well, that is another whole can of worms, in my opinion.
For sure.
This idea that he can call it in, which I think, I mean, if anyone does watch that show, I watched the Beyond Skinwalker Ranch one, specifically because Bustamante, I like that guy for some reason. I don't know why. I know he's a spook, and he's like makes a career on like advertising that he was a spook.
But Dory has him on all the time too, Julian.
Yeah. And I actually really like Julian too.
I had him at my house. I interviewed him.
Julian.
He's a cool dude. He's real humble.
Yeah, I've been watching him since I think his start, because I was so envious on how he put up or shut up so quick. Quick. He made it
He's like
work.
20 minutes from me. Like literally, his studio is 20 minutes from me.
Yeah, he's
He's in Jersey.
One of the few people that started after me that I look up to, in a big way. Him and Danny Jones, I think Danny in particular, what he's been able to build and how he's been able to do it, I think is something that is,
well, it's funny. Danny is to Julian what Julian is to us, if that makes sense to you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Very, very good. Very good analogy. So
I don't have an answer on the lady. I mean, because my bias is that I can't buy into it. So for you, Ty, not that you're validating it, but you have an idea.
Okay, what I'm putting that up against is the idea that you either don't believe Chris and his story in particular, or there's a couple different options here. You don't believe Chris for whatever reason, insert reason here. Then there's, I don't believe any of that shit is happening, period. But then there's the person who's like, I believe that aliens are visiting people, abducting people, but I don't think he's talking about the same thing I am, right? There's a couple different variations. So I fall into the category of, I think there's something to what Chris is saying about his initial encounter.
Right. I think something happened to him initially. I don't know if it's continuing. I don't know if it's continuing.
Again,
I'm not saying it's not, or it might not be continuing as frequently as he says, just because that they've been debunked to using flares, right?
I think people have
That's
said
another
that.
hot button. I would side with Vito, but you could argue either one technically. Yeah.
I don't think Chris has been caught. I would say that I don't think that
has
been
caught. That was more
caught.
Greer.
That was Greer who got.
Yeah.
Oh, it was Greer. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know the full story. I was just saying that's why I said allegedly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know for sure.
And
the
Greer,
allegation, just so we get out of the way, Ty, and I won't cut you off again, but the allegation against Bledsoe is that it's either planes or drones, because in some of the footage of him, they've seen it in the background, and he is a registered pilot. Another thing that he says is always that when the orbs come in, he can't call them any further because they're shy, which then raises red flags for people who say, well, if you could get it in closer, we could get a better view of it, or we could listen for a motor. So that's kind of what Bledsoe's up against.
What about okay, I agreed. I definitely agree with you there. That's something that definitely we need to look at. But then he shares this image of I know people like Mick West and the Green Streets of the world are picking it apart, but Chris put out the tweet. I'll read it because I think it's a little small for everyone there.
Yeah.
He put this out January 3rd, 2026. He said, quote, "This is a still shot from a 13 gigabyte video taken in 4K on Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. World Forum Skywatch on December 15th, 2025. This information appears in 4 frames. They are communicating in ways other than telepathic, and I aim to show it. Original and lighten. Question, what does it mean?" And he shows these 2 images. Just kind of what do you guys see? And we'll get into realness after.
I see. Yeah, go ahead, Vito.
I see 0350 or 0850.
That's what I thought I saw too.
Yeah, I see. I know we're going to cover that later, but I see is what appears to be English language, which again is the latter part of this conversation that bothers me.
Yeah, I guess if I originally when I saw it, I go, "Oh shit, do I need a mirror?" Because you know how when you take a picture of something, sometimes
reversed.
or
Yep.
if it's reversed, by happenstance of the way the image is framed, or if we're actually looking, say, let's just
it's upside down. That could be a 9.
That
0930 or 0980. Yeah, it could be a 6.
Or if you kind of look, I see open. I don't know why, but the first thing that actually jumped into my head was open for some reason. But I don't know. The more I look at it, the
Someone said 911. Somebody called 911.
I agree with Ty. I thought there was a word there, but I also think it's going to be a date.
Or omen. I don't know. That would be even.
We'll get into this later, but again, a date would be very convenient to get that when you're moving the Easter date forward.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that's what's
So
happened.
that's what
just
I
these are my
thought.
Right,
words.
right.
That's what and so people have asked Chris to release the video. I think
And
his
he's not,
daughter
and
did.
he's blocking them. I heard he's blocking,
did.
like the cake, he's blocking them left, right, and center.
That, so I just don't know why. I don't.
Right.
So
Well, I'm going to defend Chris, which sounds weird here for a minute. Random people on the internet have got to understand you cannot
can't
just
just
yell at
demand
somebody,
something.
give it to me, let me look at it, let me look at the
Right.
metadata. That's not how this shit works. I deal with that crap all the fucking time. Okay. So what should happen here? Chris should find someone he trusts, right, that has the validation credentials, and let that person review it and
Bingo.
go from there. But people, you know, again, I haven't said anything great about his story, but you know, come on.
I like that you say that though. You know,
Yeah,
that
it's
makes
the
me
honest thing
respect you
here.
a little
It's
bit more.
people got to.
Yeah, I'm with that.
feel
I'm with
it.
that. Let somebody, an outside,
I
like
think
a
I
third
just-
party, validate it for sure.
I mean, I already respected you, but I think you just earned a little bit more from me for going out on the other side. For
I mean, it's the
be-
truth, and
being-
people need to hear
showing
this
that.
echo chamber. Yeah, I mean, if
I
you
like
don't
that.
believe it, that's fine. But you're not the judge, jury, executioner, and people have got to get that through their head.
Yeah, guys like Mick West too. Mick West.
I don't like that guy
and-
too
and
much.
Green Street. As much as so Green Street, I have a problem with, because I don't know if you guys know this, but Green Street was employed as a person with that network that was doing known propaganda for the United States. Whatever, that's like that public access network that goes out across, and he was working with them. So that dude is just like that dude. I've never trusted him ever.
I don't like him. He's like, so I'm in Jersey,
they're
right?
so hard.
Yeah.
They're such hard debunkers that I'm like,
Yeah.
you're
I'm. Go ahead, brother. I'm sorry.
you're starting from, like, I think again it kind of comes back to the same thing as, like, you know, far right and far left
Mhm.
politically look the same,
Right. Yeah.
radically, right? So it's like it's the same thing. It's like the full-on believer versus the guy like Green Street. It's just like you're both starting from a bias. That's a problem. That's a problem. We can't have that. Not in
Yeah,
science.
you're right there. It's not
Right?
what we're
We
trying to
can't
get
do
to. Yeah.
So,
But I'm in Jersey, and I was filming and live streaming the shit out of the drones because they were over my house every goddamn night, right?
oh, that must have been insane.
Yeah. So I just got on Twitter like 2 months ago, and I guess my posts were like kicking off a little bit, and he was all over my posts just trying to debunk every little thing he was seeing. I'm like, bro,
Who,
you
Nick or
can't-
Steve?
oh, both of them.
Oh.
I call him Prick West because it looks like he always looks like he smells a faint odor of shit on his face. Like if you look at, you know what I mean? And then the other guy he's just obnoxious. I'm like, whatever, dude. Like just eat a dick.
Yeah,
I don't have much experience with either one of them, but again, this isn't the answer for this. What we need here, you know, it's just not it. Neither is anybody else on Twitter. So I mean, I would encourage Bledsoe to, you know, a third party validated source. That's not going to be hard to find for a video.
Yeah, and I'm sure you have people jumping at the bit to do it too. Like
what I do like about Bledsoe, and people use this against him, which I think is unfair, because when Contact of the Desert offers to fly you out and pay you to talk, I mean, are you a grifter if you say yes? If they're offering, are you a grift? Let's really take a look at grifting.
Actually, I want to. Let's do it. Kick it off.
If Contact in the Desert calls you and says, "Hey, I want to fly you out. I want to hear you talk. I want to do this. I'm going to pay for it all. I'll give you a little fee for coming out here." And,
hell yeah, I'm going. Yeah, I'm going.
Is that grifting?
No, I'm going.
Right.
It's the old Princess Bride where, you know, you keep using that word. I don't think you know
what it means.
It means. I mean, I've been called a grifter, and it's like, I'm not selling a ticket. I'm not selling a book. I'm not selling knowledge. There's no VIP access. Like, well, you're trying to use us to get to the government. And it's like, I've already been to the government, every single agency. None of them are watching Twitter for if they want me to come back. And the defense budget is over half of the U.S.'s total spending budget. You add everything else up, it didn't add to it. I'm a businessman in the largest business area there is. how is that grifting? I think it's just what people say, like we're talking about, where they just want to shoot their mouth off.
You know, in the political world, when they call you the, we'll just say it's the N word. Wait, that's not good. I should.
Yeah, something else.
Jesus Christ.
Fuck. No. You know, not the other end.
Yeah.
The Reich, right? When they call you that.
NAZI. Yeah, okay. I got you. I'm sorry.
I feel like that's like the grifter equivalent word in the UFO community.
Yeah, I agree with you. Because everything becomes that word. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, we throw it around like it's we throw it around without.
If you don't like somebody, grifter. Yeah,
you're
it has nothing to do with if they're grifting. It's just you don't like.
You're a charlatan. You're a grifter because you have. It's like everybody's got a book, dude. Fucking grow up. Grow up.
Right. Yeah.
Again,
well, Cassie's got 6 books apparently, but I believe that dude. Like I know that guy's legit. I'm pretty sure
that goes to work and says you keep the paycheck.
Nobody. Trump. Trump.
If this is what you do, and I spoke up about this. I was talking to Gene earlier before we got online, but it was like, you've got to be willing to spend some money for answers, and people who are making money. That's how the world works. Always has worked. If you don't like him, if we don't believe in the Bledsoes, don't spend your money there, and let it end there. You know, what's the point of this continued nonsense? Because again, and Ty and Vito, what we're pushing here is 2026. Let's fucking have a plan, sort of. You know.
Yeah, I think if we all decide to each, because you know something that's always kind of bothered me, and this is a analogy, if you will, but when someone like litters, and then you tell them, you're like, dude, what are you doing? Like, that's the earth. Like, and you give them that little spiel, and they go, one person can't change everything. I fucking hate when people say that shit, because it's like that mentality is what is gonna fuck up. Like, it's gonna fuck us in the long run. If everyone thinks that the individual can't save the world or be the change they want to see, then we're fucked. We are so long fucked. Because that's personal, I suppose. But I'm not like trying to be environmentalist, but you know, the person that always says like, oh, you know, one person can't change anything, and it's like,
yeah, but they can. One person can make a difference in everything.
It's like, dude,
I'm a career firefighter, right? One person on a scene of a fire can literally change a fire.
Yeah,
or be the one guy that saves everybody else's ass if it goes.
Yeah, or just like one dude that's just a little bit more fucking crazy than the rest of us, and is a little bit more aggressive, and he's going to go in deeper and harder than anybody else is, and that's when the fire goes out.
And if that's my grandmother, if that's my aunt, or if that's
who the fuck you want coming after you, 100%.
Yeah, not only that, but their life is my, you know, that is my life, is my family's and my friends' lives and their well-being. So if that firefighter runs in there and saves that person, he saves my life and their life, right? Mm-hmm. And that might not be the world, but you saved my world, right?
Yeah.
So again, I think this notion that as a species, we should want better. We should want change. We should want to understand the fundamental questions that I think we all have, and that's what happens when we die, and are we alone in the universe? They're questions that unequivocally affect each person on this planet. Not many things can do that. And we have a real chance at starting a movement that is not only in the history books, but rewrites those history books. And we can't get our shit together because we want to promote our favorite UFO guru like it's our fucking fantasy football team, or it's the guy that we got money on a DraftKings fucking boxing match.
Yeah.
You know what's great? Those 2 questions you just stated transcend religion, race, and everything. Like, it doesn't matter what the fuck you are, where you're from, how you're from there. Those 2 questions everyone wants to know. Period.
I don't know one person that isn't like, fuck, what happens when I fucking die? Ah, God damn it, I don't want that happen. Like, we don't want to die. No one wants to die. And anyone who says like, I'm fucking cool with dying, they're on some level, they are lying to you. Again, I think if they're meant,
my goal is not to die every time. My goal is just do my job and get the fuck out. Go home safely to my kids.
Home, yeah.
I understand people put their life on the line. That's a little different. But like, I don't think there's anyone who again, mental illness and depression. I get that that's all a real thing too. There are people that maybe have really tough lives, but I think everyone that has like life is intrinsically special. It's intrinsically complex, and it's just by looking in our galaxy, I think it's very apparent that life isn't super common. It might be common enough, but from the looks of it, it's not as common, and it should be cherished. And I think we put these caps on ourselves. Like there's no way that some guy could be calling in orbs, because that sounds too much like a movie. That sounds too magic. That sounds too this. It's like, maybe we should fucking stop saying or stop thinking that we know everything.
Well, I'll let you know. I'll let you know if Mike Batista actually can, because supposedly he's going to come to Jersey. We're going to hang out, and he's going to call some orbs down. So we'll find out.
Okay. So
if it happens, it happens. It'll be on my channel.
Fuck yeah. I mean,
here's what I would throw in there, Ty. Like,
sorry, that's
I have my own narrative because of what I can see and what we've been able to do technology wise. But like, I've never let that go either, because one of the things we would do when we would go into SSCI or Arrows, we'd have a part of the briefing called "Walking Down a Physicist," which just meant that's idea of like, well, it defies physics, so therefore it couldn't happen. You hear that a lot. The Nimitz encounter, this technology defies physics, and we would go in and point out physics. A star that's glowing too bright with known physics, it should explode. But every single person, including Dr. Kirkpatrick and everyone else, agrees that it's there and it's defying physics. So really what that means is you can't figure it out, not that things don't defy physics. And when you get into our galaxy and then you go through the stars and you get into the universe, the measurement of the universe has always been growing. Believe it or not, we've had that since the 50s. It's debatable how correct it is, but growing into what? That means there's something on the other side, even if it's a void. Okay, well, where does that end? Because when you get to the end of where does it all end, nothing can go on forever and nothing can just end, because something has to hold it in place. So both of those are impossible. Both scenarios to why we are here are impossible. When you view things in that context, anything is true. But again, we do have to kind of look at what can you present.
Yes. Yeah. And what can, and that's another thing that I really, again, that's why I said what I said earlier about, I really do think that we have a preponderance of evidence. I think Gene said that as well. There's a lot of evidence to suggest, and Michio Kaku had started this saying, and I do think it's true. I think the burden of proof has shifted from people saying that there are things in the sky that we cannot, that we don't understand, that we can't identify inherently, we can't identify them, and they seemingly have technology that is so far in advance of what we have publicly. Like if some of these things are doing 90-degree turns, the inertial effect that would cause, and if you're able to negate that, what that implies about your technological sophistication is somewhere in the, I talked to Dr. Avi Loeb and Rizwan Virk of Stanford about this as well. But Michio Kaku said the burden of proof is shifted from the believer to the non-believer. I think that's true. I think
it can be true, but not necessarily implied. Maybe that's the right way to say it. You could argue that it's true, but where we're at, it certainly doesn't feel like that's what we're operating on.
Isn't it funny though? Isn't it kind of ironic that of all of the topics all out of every piece of news and consensus, societal reality, right? Out of everything that we know that is quote unquote reality, the one thing that we can't it makes me laugh because it's so fucking conundrum. It's a conundrum. But like 99 people out of 100 will probably say we're not alone, right? Versus 100 years ago, if you asked that question, it'd probably be reversed, right?
Yeah.
So societally, we never lean on the government to tell us shit to know it's real, right? Nothing.
Because we know the government's lied before.
Because we know the government's lied before, right? So we are always like, fuck you guys. We don't need you to tell us what's real. We know the fucking truth, except with UFOs. Except with UFOs and aliens. Then the only way it's real is if the president comes out and fucking speaks at a podium and says, we are not alone. That's the only way disclosure happens, is if the president of the United States specifically says that we are not alone. It's inherently a conundrum.
Yeah, because then people who do believe it may not believe it because the president just came out and said,
well, yeah, for a multitude of reasons. But look at everything. Look at every topic. And it's like, fuck you, fuck the government, right? Or, we don't need you to tell us what's true. You work for us. Like, but with this one topic, with this one, it has to come from capital D disclosure only happens one way. And then, like you said, there's also some problems that come with that. Because if Trump says it, then 50% of people just not going to believe it on principle alone.
Yeah,
right?
well, it's like everything political. Yeah, it'll become political of what can we believe it or not. So
yeah, it makes me laugh. It really does. Conspiracies in general, like that.
Right. A point I would make is that, I bring this up with a lot of people when they tell me, like, is it human, is it not? And I say, well, most people have one of two views, right? Which is a God, whoever your God may be, essentially just created us all and created everything, right? And we're all here. Or two, we were a single cell microbe, and over evolution, look at what we've become. So if you believe either of those, especially if you believe things being presented like, gods or spirits are talking to you and sending you messages, then it's got to also be possible that humans could have made this as human tech, because you could get that information. How? Look at where we've evolved. We've only been flying for 120 years. So there's no real win or loss. It's, once again, I think we're chasing the wrong answers. 2026, if Bledsoe would be willing to get this verified through a third-party, person or a company, that would be a hell of a kickoff. If not, it's not because it's not true. It's just, if not, I think we got to leave it like it is, which is just, we got to get some more evidence on something else.
Well, check this out. So this is a little video. This is a little video from the Jesse Michaels episode that I wanted to play.
What do you think the Vatican
hear that?
knows about all of this?
Yeah.
They had a picture of you, and they were doing some ceremony about you, and you were supposed to come.
Oh, this
What
is
do
what I
you
wanted to show
think
Gene.
they think of you?
Well, I can share a couple of photos of you for that, but I got 3 pictures, several, quite a few paintings that they have in the Vatican that Diana sent me from there. And Pope Francis, she said to tell me that they know that they're angels, that they don't mean to harm us, but their energy, if they get excited, can cause harm to a human. So just be careful and try to ask it not to get too close to you. And these 3 photos or paintings show orbs with angels in them. That's what they told me.
Yeah, because, you have St. Francis of Assisi,
Yep.
who she writes about in 13th century Mount Laverne in Italy.
Right.
brother Leo is right next to him, and he sees this angel. But if you look at the original Greek translation, it's a flaming torch.
Yep.
She thinks it's this UFO experience, and that the stigmata he receives, these wounds on his hands, are actually electromagnetic damage. That, like, you know, Gary Nolan or somebody studying kind of modern experiencers interacting with UFOs might just say, oh, that's like an electromagnetic burn, where you see it in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. You see the burn on his face.
I got radiation burns, plasma radiation. That's what NASA told me it was.
So you also got plasma radiation burns.
No, I didn't, but I was warned a million times by Hal Povenmire and different ones at NASA kept calling me honestly over and over. Don't let him get too close. Don't get too close to him. Hal was telling me that they knew the voltage was like 33 million volts in one of these things. And if it got near me, it would kill me dead.
So they have like a scientific model of how these angels work at NASA.
They know a lot more than we know, than we think they do. They just don't share it, right?
So what that and that is a sentiment that I think has been shared in other cases, like Rendlesham. You brought up Rendlesham Forest earlier, right? Then the case of Travis Walton, that people get too close to these things and get some sort of radiation burn or physical bodily injury. And if that's true, angels, why would angels, if they were made to serve man, why would they inherently be harmful to man?
Yeah,
that brings a logical flaw up, doesn't it?
There's a lot there, a lot of flaws. Not to say that anything to do with religion is going to be simple. You know, like we talked about first, you got to figure out which religion. So in this case, we're talking about Vatican, so we know we're talking about Catholic. But I'm not here to argue the story. Just a couple insights, because I mean, religion, and I grew up in a really insanely Roman Catholic, like Michael, right? We're all named after.
What do you think the Vatican angel?
The Vatican, you can get into that room. There's particular rooms with particular books if you have the right credentials, and you have to schedule a time to do it, because the books are really old. Some of them you can't access because they're ones that they use to actually take the stories out of, which is what the culmination of what the Bible is and the different versions of the Bible as it's been rewrote. So I don't know. I'm not saying he's lying, but I'm just saying if you wanted to, you could definitely get a person into there and go from there. But the stories with the angels and the radiation, I can tell you, I would say 100%. If you were to ask the Catholic diocese, and there'll be one in Boston for sure, and you were to show them this clip, I bet you could get a statement that they would disapprove of it, because he's talking about him as a prophet, and he's talking about him seeing these things and hearing these things. So that's the first thing I noticed with the Vatican angle. So it doesn't make sense to me. But again, if there is radiation, which we keep hearing, we know for a fact that Carrier Strike Group would have picked it up while it was happening. And we know that the craft were close enough to get radiation, and that Hawkeye's in a boneyard somewhere. So if we wipe off the Nimitz encounter as ours, that changes a lot of things. And then we go back into what's on this side with NHI. And again, we just got stories. I wasn't intending to go that angle, but that's just how I'm hearing it.
Right. And now I want to play, because I want to go through these couple videos, because I've brought the both of these things up. So I just want to make sure that Chris is a lot, I at least show him saying it, so it's not in just my words. This is Bledsoe on Sean Ryan. I don't know why it looks like a potato quality, but
potato.
Yeah, it looks like a fucking potato quality.
Will happen in 2026.
So this is that prophecy.
What will happen?
The star will, the alignment she told me about, that the star of Regulus would be on the horizon in front of the Sphinx. At that moment, there'd be a new knowledge. Well, I had no idea if this was even possible, but these astronomers run it through the machines, and it comes out that star is going to come up on the horizon in Easter of 2026. And from that point forward, they started remote viewing the state. Government did. And now you hear it all over TV. 2026, that's the big day. 2027, that year, something's going to happen. Armageddon, you hear it all over. You know, you hear it on TV. If you study, like, I've heard even, well, I won't say names, but
Please do.
well, you know Lou Elizondo, right? Lou's mentioned that date. A lot of people have.
Easter 2026.
Well, the year 2026. I gave him the specific time. And it was with Robert Grant that I told him about this alignment and all. And then he's like, oh my God. He's been looking for this ruby. This little ruby you have to find and place it between the paws of the Sphinx to make this event that he knows is going to happen in 2026. I said, Robert, it's not a ruby, it's the Star of Regulus. And he looks like, he's like, oh my God, it's the King Star. So what's going to happen, I don't know. But I think it's possible that's the return of
Christ.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Or the lady and the whole heavenly host living with us, Jesus. That's the first time I've ever said that in my life publicly. You're the first.
Ooh, he gave him that exclusivity. But
yeah, boy, I don't know.
There's one more.
Okay.
One second. I just want to get them both out of the way. So that's the prophecy. That's the whole and then, you know, Chris has gone on later to say that he doesn't know exactly what's supposed to happen this day. Of course, you know, him being a religious person, you know, he thinks maybe it could be the return of Christ by, you know, the way that things are looking. I mean, they are kind of dreary when you look around. I'm not laying credence to
we're talking through what could be going on here.
But yeah, I mean, it's not hard to look around and think, well, shit. I mean,
any day could pop off. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like you know, we're in need of like the return of a Messiah all of a sudden. The world's on fire, like the book says it's going to be, right? We're running towards this social you know, this digital ID process with the, you know, with technological revolution. And again, you know, some people will be like, oh, dude, you sound fucking crazy, or like tinfoil hat. And it's like, well, you know, like they talk about the mark of the beast. And do I think that that's true? Am I a religious person? No. But when I look around at like AI and shit, I see why people draw the comparisons to like the Antichrist and to the mark of the beast when it comes to like something like Elon Musk's Neuralink, right? Or the idea of like a social credit score. I understand why we're drawing those parallels. And is that why it's so easy for a guy like Bledsoe to thrive? Because there is this.
Yeah, and again, we don't know if he's telling the truth or not. You know, we gotta give him that. But you know, that sort of thing's been around for a long time. You know, one of the things also in the Bible is that we're all essentially the mark of the beast is going to be one of us, and we all have a social security number, don't we? Right when we're born. So that sort of stuff's been around for a while.
I didn't even think about that.
That it's happened. What I will say is, and I'm talking from, you know, just things that I see off the bat. Most of us investigators that go out and research see stuff, but his book's there, so his publicist got him the date. I can't tell from Sean Ryan if he's buying it or doing return questions. That might be an interesting one to watch.
Well, Sean is increasingly becoming more faith driven, I've noticed, than when he first started, where he was kind of.
I heard that too. His new studio, he said he wrote scripture on every board that went into it. So on every single, and then they put Bibles on each in each cornerstone of the new studio. So Sean's growing increasingly more, I think, religiously not biased. I don't know if that's the right word, but
again, I think and I said this earlier in the show, we're in this kind of like weird upswing of people having a renewed faith, where for a long time, churches have been empty. I think religion has been on the decline, at least modern.
It's true. It has.
Yeah.
It has.
But I think we're on like some weird upswing right now. People are going back to it all of a sudden. And like, even like Rogan, like talk about guys like Rogan. Rogan would be the last person I thought would be in a church, but now guess where he is every Sunday? Fucking church. And you just got to ask yourself, like, is it just like with age? Do people just, or is it with wisdom? Like, what is going on? Like, but there's a lot of young people. I don't know. I'm fucking confused about it.
No, it's good questions. It's happening. I mean,
then you got shit like this, right? I'm someone who I play this clip because I genuinely believe it could be true. And if I live in the world that we're about to hear, then angels don't seem so fucking crazy.
Do you think he actually viewed his role as part of this sort of timeline adjustment team? Tim Taylor, yeah.
He was the one who told me to watch the movie. He said, that movie was created for a reason. Watch it. It's a lot like that. And in that movie, you'll find a character named the Hammer. And he said, and I work for the Hammer. And the Hammer works for God. And I'm like, hey, you got to tell me more than that. And that's all he would tell me. He said, I work for the Hammer, and the Hammer works for God.
Do you think that he's in touch with a celestial being, with an angel?
So you handle the important things. Well, the last time I checked, the world's a pretty screwed up place.
It's still here.
Me too.
If we left things in your hands, it wouldn't be.
He insinuated that, and I can probably believe that. Something.
Yeah.
Whether it's an angel or what, I don't know.
So,
well, I mean,
do you think
I have a problem with the interviews where we're talking about something like a star lining up and a ruby and an event happening. Those are very, very, very specific details, but yet the date for this to happen, he's handing off to astronomers, I believe he said, and now they're wrong, not him. But he's got this massive amount of details about a ruby eye going into Sphinx. How come he can't get the exact date detail, but he's got these others? And then now we have reference in a movie, which would create this massive deep state, and this Tim Taylor guy working for the Hammer. I mean,
like, literally,
I'm struggling with this.
What they're saying is Tim Taylor is a fucking time traveler.
Right.
Like a time traveler, this guy that goes around and adjusts or intervenes in things like but isn't Tim Taylor the guy that interacted with Diana Pasulka, brought her to the Vatican, did that whole thing, brought Diana Pasulka?
I think you'll find a lot of the same people mixed in here.
Yeah, they brought them out to the desert, to near where UFO crash happened. They found metal. He was around Charles Hall and Charles Hall's wife. He was around Bledsoe. Like, who the fuck is this Tim Taylor guy, and why can't anyone find him?
Well, so the gentleman that said he was filing the complaint was Desmo, and I supported it because this is why we need to find this fucking guy, and we need to get the straight of what's going on, because
I want some goddamn answers.
Either he's right and he's this time traveler and he works for the Hammer and there's all these things, or two, he's severely fucking with somebody. You could say third, possibly a fraud. There is some people, I'm not going to mention the names here, I know that went through court, who had these massive stories about all this stuff, and then they got sat down in court and they said, oh yeah, that wasn't.
Well, what if by fucking with these people and having them come forward as these experiencers or getting involved in them?
Sounds kind of like the Dottie thing, doesn't it?
Exact. You took the words right out of my mouth. Could this guy, this whole adjustment bureau, what if he is doing this as it's a reality control mechanism, right? It's you get those stories out there, you bring them to real places like Cape Canaveral, right? you woo them.
Mhm.
You show them what you can get. You show them what you can do, who you are, what access you have, and therefore they gain. You gain their trust, and then you start the tweaking process, and you start literally adjusting reality. I mean, that is
one thing we should all be able to agree on is is it true or not? It's that Tim Taylor is not following the rules. So why is that? These are not things you're supposed to do with somebody.
Who says he's not? Who writes the rules?
Well, the rules for a gentleman working for NASA. Now, I see what you're saying is if there was somebody else behind the scenes, but again, that goes into why is he breaking? You're not supposed to be doing this with a civilian person, and this is these sort of stories. But then again, it's not that it's quiet, which is what bothers me, because usually when you're told things, like I lived in the shadows for decades, I told you I started talking a little bit, and one of the agencies told me quit talking about it or they can't do what they're doing. That would be normal. So why are they letting him literally write books about this? And
well, I'm really worried. I'm sorry, you can go after, and then I probably do gonna have to wrap up. I do have
we need to, bro.
I have an interview tomorrow, and I accidentally smoked that whole joint, and I am, I didn't even realize until just a minute ago. I was like,
good
God
for you,
damn.
brother.
Well, what's your final thought on that, Ty? What do you think?
Well, my biggest thing is, what if we're being red teamed?
Yeah.
What if we're being red teamed by the very people that we're propping up as? And again, I have Chris Bledsoe's number. I text him. I have Crohn's. His story and my story. I've always kind of connected with him. And again, I've been around the guy. He's got a fucking aura about him. Mm-hmm. Something about him feels different. And I don't want to endorse anybody because, again, I always stay neutral, or I try to at least. I try not to show my bias. I try not to go too political one way or another. I try to just be objective as I can.
That's the way to do it.
But I'm also not going to sit around and, like, for instance, I watch every interview that Greer does. I watch every interview that Elizondo does. I know. I get it.
I'm sorry.
I get it. All these people that others in the community put in pedestals, I do watch everything they say because I do try to stay neutral. I try to observe, I try to sponge everything up, but I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to say that Elizondo, and I know everyone loves, you either love him or hate him. It's the kind of same like Greer kind of fatigue.
I'm the same way. Everybody is.
Right.
Yeah.
But Lou has gone on record saying that he is a counterintelligence guy, and he was asked to apply his fucking skill set to the UFO topic. What is his skill set that he just said? He's a counterintelligence guy, and he's never been a UFO guy. Never will be. He's a counterintelligence guy that was asked to bring his skill set to the UFO topic. So I am going to listen to everything you say, but I am also not going to believe it at face value.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think that's fair.
I think what it is also is he's got guys like Corbell and shit vouching for him. And when you got Corbell and Grusch standing next to him vouching for him and looking like they vouch for him, that's when people just go, okay, well, maybe this guy's fucking legit. And he's not a spook. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's how I see it.
Like I said earlier, I like Bustamante, but I know that he is actively deploying his skill set upon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've
talked to Bustamante. Yeah. I don't like him. I'm a Kiriakou guy more than that, but
I do like John too.
I'll talk to them both. Fuck that.
Yeah, me
too.
Everybody.
I like.
I'm
a whore.
I like this guy
I'm a whore, bro. Talk to my ass.
All right.
I'll talk to
so
anyone
what can we agree on here? For me, it's going forward. Everybody lay the fuck off Bledsoe. Let's just encourage him and let's see if we can set up something where he's willing to get this thing analyzed. That really solves everybody, whether you believe it or not.
I'd like to have a conversation with Bledsoe. And as far as the Tim Taylor thing goes, you were asking a question of like who lets him. Yo, we don't know. Maybe he's the fucking guy. You know what I mean? Like,
same thing.
who's to say that? Who's to say that?
Start one place. Though. I think this video from Bledsoe is the easiest place.
Maybe he calls the shots. According to
If
Pasolka,
that passes, we sure the hell need to talk to Tim Taylor. If it doesn't, I don't think we do.
They call him the Dragon.
Yeah, Pasolka vouches for him a lot. So
that's just, something that throws me off.
Yep.
Because Gary Nolan does too.
Yep.
And again, like if we are going to believe that he's able to walk into the Vatican and get that kind of shit done.
Who the fuck can walk into the Vatican, first of all, and just walk around and get like open doors? Bro, are you kidding?
But it gets ceremony.
That's gotta be more secure than the goddamn White House. It's the Vatican.
Up there with, I think the original cover-up began with the Vatican.
100%.
I think it began with the church. And
I would love to see what they have. They've got to have some shit.
Well, I'm not against that, but as we know, the Vatican's got plenty of cover-ups, which again goes into the to religious connotation views of. I'm sorry. We gotta be careful believing all this. The Vatican's not really the greatest source right now. Let's put it.
Yeah. I know. They got their own fucking problems. I'm from Boston, where they blew that shit up, my mom literally said that she would never bring after that got exposed. I remember her like she brought me to church once, and she goes, "Do you ever want to go back in?" I was like, "No," and she's like, "Okay."
It was a massive issue for me too. I really had to.
How come you don't have the accent, man? You're from Boston.
I can turn it off.
Ah, all right.
Yeah.
Get a couple of drinks in. It's a park my car by the harbor.
No, I understand him right now as he's turned it off because I got friends from there too. Yeah.
I've always had that ability. They ask me if I'm from Canada. They're like, "Are you from Canada?" And I'm like, "No." What the fuck?
I get asked the same thing because I'm from New Jersey and I don't have the Jersey accent really.
Well, let me ask you this, Ty, because I know we got to wrap it up too. Because you work a job. This is not. I mean, then you come here and you do this. You don't just have extra time laying around. I would be interested in the Vatican or even the local diocese view on what Bledsoe has said in just those two clips, and I think we could get that. That's not a hit on them. I just would like to know.
That would be very interesting to hear what the Vatican says about Bledsoe.
Just those two clips of what he's saying. Yeah, I would be interested to hear it. But again, no one, just like the Bledsoe thing, don't start yelling at Ty if he doesn't have it by midnight. He's got a job.
Has Bledsoe gone to the Vatican? Do we know?
He has not gone himself. He was supposed to go to that one that they talked about, but he ended up getting sick at the time or whatever. So they used like a picture of him and did like a ceremony. That's what he says.
I saw the photo, but again, I'm struggling with them taping up a photo on a very important painting
and then leaving it there. Apparently, the narrative.
I'm having trouble with that one.
So make of what you will.
We got all views discussed. That was the important thing here.
I talked to Chris today. Literally today, I texted him and I was like, because I like to tell people like, hey, you're obviously a topic and something I'm talking about tonight. And, I just want to let you know, like,
that's good. You do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Invite him on.
Yeah. I talked to him, he's a good friend. Again, I introduced him at Contact the Desert. It was an honor to do it.
Awesome.
The guy's a dude. And then the first time I met him was at the hearing. The 2024 hearing that Elizondo testified at. Mm-hmm. I was there. I was with Bob. I was with Bob Salas, and I was making sure because I had a seat reserved for me. I didn't have to wait in line. I don't want to sound like I'm such a big show.
Hey, throw your dick around. I'm all right. We're good.
Yeah,
throw your dick around.
I had a fucking chair with my name reserved, and that was like, dude, I was the second person onto that congressional floor that day behind Corbell. So I was the second person in there. And I remember walking up to Corbell in an empty fucking room. And that's when I introduced myself to him in person for the first time too.
How is he? Is he cool?
He looked like he fucking did like an 8-ball that night. No, he was wired.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, now we kind of know why, because isn't that where they fucking ripped his name off the Immaculate Conception document? Isn't that
finish that story, Ty? And I've kind of heard you tell me that you were going to give your seat up to make sure Bob actually had a damn seat.
Absolutely.
And I think you were able to get a seat.
Yes,
but
we got him a public seat.
You have also helped some of those gentlemen walk into, in the House to Congressmen and women's things. So Ty is working on getting things moving and solved.
I do try to walk a walk that allows me
talking
to,
shit. You're in there. Yeah.
I walked Salas into me. I was supposed to interview. So aside from doing that, making sure that he got into the hearing, I would have sacrificed my own seat for him, which I was prepared to do. And just to make sure he was in there.
That's awesome, man.
And then that night I had an interview with Nancy Mace. I had to interview myself. And
I kind of love her a little bit.
Yeah, she's fucking wild, bro.
Yeah,
she's cool in person too.
Naughty librarian,
I know people don't like her,
I like her
for her views. And again, the reason I've met with only Republicans is they're the only ones willing to meet. I've asked Democrats.
I'm going to vouch for that in the Senate too.
It's very hard
and not ask stupid questions like, why are aliens racist? Like,
we start. And like I had a recent comment on the podcast side, the audio side, where the guy was like, hey, you usually don't take a political stance. I didn't really like that you said this and or whatever. I hope everyone knows that that's not my thing. I don't mean to alienate anyone when it comes to this. The only reason that I've only seen and talked to Republicans is because that's the only ones who are willing to talk. Mm-hmm. I've asked Democrats. It's fucking crazy. I figured they'd be more bashful with their time. No, that's not the case. So
you're right.
I got him to meet with Mace. I relinquished my interview. And again, I wouldn't even have talked about this, but you brought it up. But I made sure that Salas was able to brief Mace in person. And then the next hearing, I made sure he briefed Burleson and got that done. So yeah, and I facilitated a couple other things that I just don't care to talk about because it's not why I do it. I do it because I want to move the needle. And if this is the way we can move the needle, I know my place. That's the difference between me and, a lot of people on the X community or the UFO X community is I really do know my place. And that is right here at this chair, facilitating stories and doing what I can to do my part. And I know I'm not above or below, or I know who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm doing it. So
that's good, man. That's great.
Yeah.
People leave my example, and that's why I brought it up. I want people to hear what actual you are doing because we're trying to go into 2026 different. Enough with the podcasters just looking for crazy stories and throw people under the bus. You got feet on the ground. You got actual dollar bills.
Yeah. I just want to tell stories. Just like let people tell their fucking story. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah, man.
That's what I do, bro.
That's my new way of, because the guest I'm having in tomorrow, people are like, oh, this guy, he's Chinese intelligence, and I'm like, oh, okay.
So let him tell a story.
Yeah, I'm like, well, you guys are literally insane, but sure, like he's Chinese intelligence. That's like, I'll make sure to be careful from a guy who is a court interpreter in San Francisco and has lived there for 30 years. But sure, okay. And listen, I understand there are real like CCP like infiltrations. I know that this guy's not that. So, and if it was, I'd be very disappointed in China's ability to penetrate the United States.
All I'm going to say is I'm more worried about people telling UFO stories and alien stories lying than I am the Chinese intelligence.
Hey, Mike, I never
value.
What if China? I know I just interrupted all of you.
No, it's your show. It's your show, brother. I don't want to shut the fuck up.
Dude, what if China was the first one to do it and just flip the script.
And just drag an alien out and like, here you go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Somebody better.
There's your question for tomorrow, because I've always felt like with the president and the way China works, that would never happen based on old school sort of mentality. But that might be an interesting question.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
I know, like someone posted me North Korea, and I was like, no. They like
Korea says that who's gonna
exactly,
believe that shit.
Yeah, they like it exactly how it is. But China's a little bit more loose, like they do, like they show the Avengers and over there, right? Like they let it in enough, but they got a very tight grip.
Oh, they lock it down. They let it in, but it's locked down.
Yeah. So, like, I think it could be interesting if the United States and again, I just raised the contradiction, like this 90+ year cover up, you know. We talk about it in the documentaries about how the government's the one who fucking covered it up. And now all we think of, the only thing that could possibly be disclosure is the government coming out and saying it's true. It just baffles me that that's the reality that we're living in.
There's no plan, Ty. We know.
Yeah. We need a cohesive action report or a not a cohesive act. What the military
plan.
does.
Got some goals.
The military does before they go in and capture Nicolas Maduro. Like, let's make a plan.
Yeah, we got the ability and the money. Let's do it.
Yeah. Thank
Mike,
you guys.
I got a question for you before we dip off. You could never show your pictures, but could you draw them?
What does that mean?
So he's got
the
4K images of like some shit that like nobody, well, he's seen it and Burleson's seen it, but is he allowed to draw it? Like Burleson drew my man Dan Cleary, I think his name is. He drew him the picture, not Burleson. Borland drew him the picture of that of his thing. You know what I'm saying? So Mike, would you be able to draw it?
Be interesting. I was going to tell you ahead of time, man. I am one shitty drawer. There's going to
I don't give a fuck if it's a
stick guy next to it.
A stick figure's better than nothing. You know what I mean? 3 circles in a line is better than nothing. So.
Oh shit! Maybe I should probably, you know, you've jumped on here twice, and I actually don't know your full story.
I interviewed him. Check my my Vito channel.
Yeah, it's a long, complicated one. I know we're trying to sign off, but you know,
well, maybe we can
you had me
down.
on regardless. So,
well, yeah, because again, I mean, I do watch as much as possible. I don't get everything, but
it's impossible.
Maybe I could, maybe we could sit down and I could hear it for myself.
Yeah, you know what? It's the same way, just like you are with your other contacts. Me and Gene got each other's phone number. I mean, yeah, reach out. We'll work through it.
Oh yeah, and I'm gonna do this like every couple weeks. I'm gonna open it up. I think I like the format.
Yeah,
I miss it quite frankly, and yeah. So with that being said, thank you guys. Where what is your real name? Down
Vito.
There? Vito. Where can people find you? You said your future podcast or
okay. So I have 2 channels. The one that I'm on right now is my big channel. It's half the size of yours. I have 3,200 subscribers. Then I have a Vito. So I was doing everything. I was doing everything all on one channel. Like everything was all on my gaming channel, and it was fucking with my algorithm real hard. So I had to.
I know that feeling.
It just drives me crazy because it's like I just want the channel to be my brain and my mad vision, right? So like my vision is this. For instance, a couple weeks ago, I had Ashton Forbes playing live on a gaming stream, playing with us on my arcade cabinet, which is behind me. So I stream from a 50. I stream from a 50-inch 4-play arcade cabinet, and that's what I play on with, and I have 3 webcam views, and the whole goal is to have people from different parts of the world to play with me.
Yeah, at Perfect Storm Gaming though, isn't it? Though your Twitter.
Yes, at the Perfect Storm and Gaming on YouTube, and then I have the Vito channel, which is it's linked to the other one. That's going to be the podcast one. That's growing small. I just started like 3 weeks ago, but that's where I moved all the UFO stuff. Sorry, long-winded.
That's honestly I have 99% of the audience that I have right now is audio only. I'm on the top charts for the science and society. I forget what categories it is, but I do much better on the audio podcast because I started over, and I was selfish when I didn't want to restart YouTube. So my movie YouTube, I just changed the name of it, but then I didn't realize for the next 5 years, my search engine optimization was going to be working against, because I was targeting a movie audience, and now I'm targeting something completely different. So I fucked myself over on YouTube, and I've thought about just like starting over, because I'm like, I'm still at that point where I'd be okay.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks, but I figured what I'll do is I'll work one for the other. So I'll have people on the gaming one, and then I'll bring them over to the interview one, and that one will boost and watch the other. So that's what I'm going to do. That's basically what I've been doing with it. So
hey, thanks for coming, Vito.
Anytime, bro. I'll be here. I like
man.
this
I
shit.
thought another good addition, and I'm glad Ty put this on.
Yeah, I it's usually on Thursdays is going to be at 7 Eastern, every other Thursday, so 2 a month. So
cool.
You guys are always welcome. It will always be here. Hope to see you guys soon. Mike, you're on X. I know you don't really like have channels, but
yeah, I always say, you know what? If I show up, I show up. That's kind of how I roll. Face blanked out. So if I'm there, I'm there. Don't worry about chasing me down. I'll find you.
Yeah, he's popped on mine and Ty, you're welcome to pop on mine too, brother. I do Tuesdays 8:00 Eastern.
Tuesdays 8:00. I'll remember that.
Unless I'm at the firehouse and my schedule rotates, then I try and move the day.
All right, brother. Thank you for doing what you do and put your life on the line.
No thanks needed. I love my job, but I appreciate it.
That goes for you too, Mike. Whatever you actually do. Thanks,
gentlemen.
Thanks for doing it. Yeah,
I'll see you here in another 2 weeks.
All right, to everyone out there on the telly, or if you're listening in the future, probably. Yeah, if you're listening and you're from the future and you're a future timeline version and vampire or whatever, that's fucking awesome.
Come back, give me the Powerball number.
Yeah, like, share, subscribe. You know what it is. Do all those things.
All the things.
All the things. There's too many. Because you say it one way, like, share, subscribe for YouTube, but on the podcast platforms, it's just follow, rate, and review. And there's one central hub for the podcast, and I'm building out that website now. But yeah, come say hello. My interview with Nat and Gene, and all about the Soviet UFO reverse engineering program will be debuting this weekend. And then
cool. We'll watch that.
I got Paul Hynek flying in shortly. And then so I got a few good episodes lined up.
You got a couple of small names there, 2 or 3 small names, right?
Yeah. Keeping it small, boys.
Yo, so you're multi-streaming, right? Because I do the same. I do it on X, Twitter, YouTube, and Rumble.
Yeah, but X is killing me because there's no benefit.
For me, it is. I get more people on X than I do on YouTube. It's crazy. Yeah, I got 300 on X.
But
there's no interaction.
You are trying, Pete. You're gonna throw me on a fucking tangent right now. This is a huge problem I have. if X wants to compete with YouTube, if anyone wants to compete with YouTube, you have to pay creators that are labeled themselves creators, right? So if you are getting more people on X, and trust me, in most cases I am too. So I see that.
Yeah, you have a huge audience on X right now.
You have to have this ridiculous engagement. 5 million impressions in 90 days on. There's like the parameters are fucking insane. You have to live on X, and some people do. Let's not get it twisted. So there are those people that can. But it's very, very small. So if Elon actually wanted to compete with YouTube, he would pay creators. Yeah, and it would be
fuck you, pay me, Elon.
Adopt a similar payout structure to YouTube. Do it the same way YouTube does it, but let creators create and let them, because it is sometimes easier. People are getting their news all on X, and there's literally a UFO X, right? So when you stream to X, why is someone I'm losing my voice. Why is someone going to leave X if they can just watch it on YouTube? I mean, why are they going to go to YouTube to watch if they can just watch it on X? No ads, nothing.
Right. Yeah.
The regular creator can't stream to X and actually do, like, it might help you in a long-term
I'm
but
just
it's
using it to try and grow my channel larger. You know what I mean? That's what I'm
again,
using it for. Yeah.
separate tangent. I just think that
But no, I agree. He should do like Rumble. Rumble pays you immediately, but Rumble sucks balls. You can't go on Rumble for shit.
but God forbid you talk about money and UFOs anyway, and then you get labeled a grifter. So
what do you think, Ty? You ready to close this out? And
I'm sorry, I could talk all night.
Yeah, you got me on
the wrong
that. You got me on a whole
motherfucker.
set. Got me on a whole set.
2 weeks from now, be here, Vigo. I'll remind
Absolutely. As long as I'm not working, I'll be here. Yeah, you hit me up. You know that. Or Ty, you can reach me out.
Do you know how much money I've spent in the past fucking year? I won't even say. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time. I'm gonna have to cut this off. I'm gonna have to cut half of the show to put it out.